What's happening? Welcome to the 18th episode of the Slapstream with Djordje live from Slapsville. We already have some people here, so please let me know if you can hear me fine or not. That's kind of necessary to check right at the beginning. And I'll ask you the same thing when my guest joins. That's the only way how I can check if this is actually working or I'm just talking to myself. Hope I'm not doing that. Um, as I said, this is 18th episode, and it seemed that you guys really like seeing some psychobilly. We got like lots of views on Kim's interview a few weeks ago, and Steve Whitehouse as well. Last week we had Eddie Cochran's bass player Gaibo. I was really excited about it. If you missed that episode, please check it out. Or if you missed any of the episodes, please go to my channel, subscribe, and watch all the Slapstream videos. Trust me, they're worth it. We are making history here. All these players are handpicked, and there's very good reason why I chose these people. I'm just not doing random bass players. All right, thank you. There's already quite a few out here. Thank you, Carolyn from Long Beach. I'm glad that you can hear me. Yahira, thank you. Alicia, Sasha, Johnny, Damien, Nikolai. Hello from Denmark. All right. I've been looking forward to this episode as well. Megan, Diego. All right. You can hear us in UK. Glad to hear that. Few things I would like to mention at the very beginning. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please make sure to do that. I'm putting out, I think, the most interesting slap bass content. So if you like slap bass, if you like rockabilly, if you like all this, even the other music styles like jazz, or might cover some classical soon, but slap, please make sure to subscribe and watch all these videos. Subscribe button should be somewhere out here, but if you're watching the live stream, it's somewhere around. If you'd like to support me, support us, I put like a few links down below. Check out Patreon. I would like to give a shout out to our Patreons. I'll do that. And oh yeah. So the exciting thing is that I have a super chat available now. So I think like right under the live chat, if you want to instantly support and if you want to feature your comment, you can do that. So super chat, super stickers, like a couple things under the live chat. So check that out. And the Patreon is kind of the most important thing. If you really want to support the slap stream. All right, without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest. And there's a reason why I'm wearing Coffin Cats t-shirt. And my guest today is VIC VICTOR from the Coffin Cats.
Oh, hey,
That's the guy.
how's it going?
It's going pretty good. What's happening?
I'm a little washed out. There we go. What's happening?
How's it going, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I have to ask people first if they hear both of us good.
Fell out, so.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's
Yeah.
going to be even more interesting and more spontaneous.
We're fine.
So how have you been? How are you holding up during these crazy times with no tours and no, touring musician life?
Well, been working a lot. Not necessarily doing the work that I'd rather be doing, which is touring and everything, but me and my bandmates, Tommy and Eric, when we go out on tour, we have a road guy with us. Some people might know him as Big Joey. And Big Joey, fortunately, owns a sprinkler company. We install sprinklers in the ground and stuff. And when we're like, hey, Joey, there's no tours this summer or spring, or it looks like who knows when, we need work. and so we've been working as much as possible just to pay the bills and everything, doing sprinkler work. So we've been getting by.
Well, We all do. It's like hopefully not for too long until we start touring again. It's so weird, like being able to tour, like your whole life, and all of a sudden, bam, nothing.
This is the longest I've ever gone without being on a stage since first stepping on a stage when I was like 15. This is the
Yeah,
longest I've ever gone. Yeah.
same here. Same here. But you have like your merch store, right? Like you've been. How's that
Yeah.
going?
So we're as Coffin Cats, we're incredibly lucky to have like such a supportive group of friends and fan base and everything. Even though the shows stop doesn't mean that the bills stop. Having Coffin Cats, we have bills as a band, and we have like a studio that we have, and we have a building that we had a printing business in, so we have a mortgage on that, and everything kind of adds up. And when it comes to having to pull out of your own personal pocket for band stuff and also pay, well, your family bills, it just doesn't add up. So fortunately, the store has helped us, get by.
Well, so that's the best way when people, want to support you and not forget, like to check out and buy some merch.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what is the website?
So it's there's two ways of getting there. It's either the coffincats.com, which we recently just got back and I'm pretty excited about, or it's coffincatsrock.com. So either of those will take you right to our website.
What does it mean you got it back? Somebody
well,
got it from you?
We're terrible with technology, and we had the coffincats.com as a website years ago, and then we let it lapse, and then when we went to like redo our website, we couldn't get it back, so that's how coffincatsrock.com happened. The same thing happened with www.coffincats.com. Somebody else has that, or we got to pay somebody to get that.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, deleted and destroyed. He's buying more merch as soon as this is over. I hope he's talking about this Slapstream, not this apocalypse.
Oh.
And Megan,
I'm sorry to me, as an extra bonus, I didn't put the code up yet, but on our website, anybody watching this stream and streaming these videos, we're gonna have a special code up for a while, and the promo code will be Art of Slap Bass at checkout, and you can get 25% off your order on coffincatsrock.com. And we can go over that again at the end. But yeah, Art of Slap
I will.
Bass will be the promo code.
I'll write it down as well. And Megan,
yet, so don't go. It's not
okay.
I got after we're done here, then I got to get over and do that because I forgot to do it before the show.
Oh, okay. Megan says that she loves her new merch. So.
Oh, awesome.
But Kim said that he can hardly hear you. So can you put your volume up? I can hear you perfectly, but
how about now? Kim?
How about now, Kim? Oh, Caroline said the Kim is a little low. I assume she means Vic, but
Jim got a problem? Over there talking crap?
This is going to be very entertaining show, I see.
We got everybody. Tommy Coffin, everybody.
Hello, Tommy.
Are you challenging Kim?
I think so. He called me fat last time, so.
See, he still hasn't let it go, Kim.
Okay.
I hope we're talking to the right Kim.
Right,
yeah. All right. He said it's better. So and everybody says it's perfect. Better.
Yeah, the microphone stand was too tall for me for a second.
Oh, okay. All right. So everybody can hear you, and we can actually see you better since you're closer. All right. I don't know who should I talk to now.
Yeah, don't mind that guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I told the guys, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this interview thing, and they're like, well, is it cool if we pop in for a second? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to need some help. So
yeah, awesome. All right. So do you want to play immediately something? How
sure.
do you feel, Tommy?
Sure.
All right, you ready? All right.
Yeah.
And Kim noticed that Tommy lost weight, so I guess that's a thumb up. Usually I wait like for the first song, but since This is a very interesting situation. So let's do this.
Well, here we go. Does anybody want to hear anything?
Yeah, we're taking requests now.
Because if you put me on the spot like this, I'm not going to remember that I was even in a band.
Is Tommy ready or?
Oh,
what
yeah.
is
Hey,
doing?
Tom, hey, Tom, grab the acoustic. I threw you under the bus and said that you'd play acoustic behind me.
I hope he's not doing push-ups or something. I already feel there's going to be a long interview since we haven't even started talking about bass.
We like to have a good time over here. And,
All right.
I know you're over in Slapsville. We're over here in Catsville.
All right.
All right, here we go. Seeing as, you want to do Chainsaw? Okay, I haven't played that in forever, so let's see what happens. See the chainsaw running in the dead of the night. Wheel, I'm cutting up some bodies out into the light. I hit them with a hammer, watch them die. The chainsaw massacre, time denied. Where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide when you're hanging from a hook? I'll skin you alive. Are you gonna scream for me? Yes, I want you to die. Oh, I messed the part up. Little finger licking good, and baby, give me some skin. I tear it off your arm, I might let you live. Oh, he's to find a fight for it isn't a sin. Open up the oven now, put yourself in. Where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide when you're hanging from a hook? I'll skin you alive. Are you gonna scream for me? Is I want you to die. Oh no, Tommy. Where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide when you're hanging from a hook? Skin you alive. Are you gonna scream for me? Is I want you to die. Yeah. Well, I'll break your back. I pull at your spine, or ripping off your fingernails two at a time. I'm chewing on your ears, baby, while you're alive. Are gonna get me fresh meat tonight. Where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide when you're hanging from a hook? Skin you alive. Are you gonna scream for me? Is I want you to die. Oh. Tom, I like how you got right behind me because this is my show.
We can,
A boxing shadow.
just so you know, you did get some requests. Well, what is the name of the song?
That was Chainsaw Massacre.
Chainsaw Massacre. Which album is that one?
That is on Inhumane.
All right. Let me see. So, Vic is gorgeous.
Aw.
See? All right. Let me read this. Her name was Rock and Roll.
Ooh. Oh, man. See, I knew this was going to happen.
V8 Nightmare.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Well, play the OOO song.
Oh, yeah. That's, Oh, yeah.
Witch in the Woods from Crystal Douglas.
Yeah.
Bottle Cold.
Tom, we really should have practiced.
Giving Blood. Bottle Cold. Radiator Chains. And Yahaya really loves your voice.
Oh, thank
Your
you.
voice is fire. You have a question from Chuck. Chuck is asking you, is that a deuce bridge?
Yes, it is. This is one of the earlier deuces. I have like every incarnation of the deuce bridge as it went over the years, except for I guess they're still being made. I don't know much about what's going on now with them, so I don't know what they look like now. But I have like 3 generations of them at the moment.
Oh, really? Wow. I never had Deuce Bridge. I like more uh, traditional, I guess. Quite a few requests.
They're very
So
the deuce is very convenient if you're traveling a lot because you can do simple adjustments very quick, and you know, if you're traveling and having, hitting different climates, different elevations and everything, you can do very fine adjustments very easily with the deuce. And
cool.
it helps when it dialing your pickup, which we can get to that later. It's very
Absolutely.
easy, so.
And let me see. Oh, after all these episodes, I'm still learning how this program functions. What's up from Denver? From Bob.
Yeah, I missed Denver.
Alien That Cats V8 Nightmare. And oh, Tommy, come closer with the guitar. All right, so we'll now remember that.
Yeah, we didn't.
Next time.
That was right off the cuff. I had no idea we were really going to do that.
Well, he showed up, and he, I noticed that. I was afraid he was gonna steal your spot, but
That's
he decided to be in the back, so okay. um, oh, it's like I hardly have time like to read all these comments. Splatterhouse, Jason Brown is still doing deuces here in OC.
Okay.
When is the new album? When is the new album coming out?
Well, working on it right now. Originally I had the plan of I wanted to have something out by Halloween, but given our work situation and me and the guys, like I said, we're doing those sprinklers, so it's seasonal work and the ground's getting ready to freeze here in Michigan. So the time that we wanted to spend in the studio has been going to actually like going to work. So we're working on it. Yes.
Okay. Jason said
juices are flowing.
Jason said finally got to see the Coffin Cats in Seattle in spring of 2019.
Oh, right on.
One of the best shows ever. All right, it's hard like to remember all these, to read if I forgot. Oh, Kim said that Tommy is gorgeous too, so I have to feature that.
I think Tom's in the bathroom, so I'll let him know whenever he
shows.
Okay,
I'll feature that comment again if I can find it. Will you be coming to Europe soon? Well, that's a trick question.
Yeah. I mean, as far as we're concerned, we're ready. As soon as the situation clears up, we're ready to roll and do business as usual. As far as we're concerned, is getting back to Europe, getting back into Canada. I mean, we didn't want to slow down.
Yeah, nobody wanted. Play choke.
Oh.
And well, let's see about all these requests. All right, so let's get back to the normal. Do you have a chair or something you make yourself a little more comfortable? If you want to. Okay.
My assistant is rushing right to it. No, Tom, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
I planned this out. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
Awesome.
Let's see. There we go.
And before I ask you my regular questions, I want to say thanks to Yahira for the super sticker. So follow Yahira's example and give Slapstream some super stickers. She did a couple of these.
What is a super sticker?
Actually, I discovered that last week or week before. So after you reach certain something with YouTube, then they give you a few perks.
Yeah, I noticed. I wanted to share a post as I've been sharing earlier today, and I think we have to reach 1,000 YouTube fans before it lets me do that. So
yes.
So subscribe to our YouTube page.
YouTube, yes. So what is the YouTube page?
It's official Coffin Cats. I think it's youtube.com/official Coffin Cats.
Oh, okay. Because I was trying to find it and put it under the description.
I can't even find it sometimes.
And I couldn't. So I found the topic. I'll talk to you later, but you can combine these and get those fans instantly.
Still trying to figure that stuff out.
So So people subscribe to Coffin Cats, and definitely subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Um, something I always wanted to ask you about, like, how did you? When was the when? Actually, I wanted to ask you, like, how did you develop your technique? But first, I want to ask you, how did you? When was the first time that you heard slap and that you decided to start slapping your bass?
Well, I would say my first like discovery of like slap bass and is or seeing what a slap bass is or what it is, probably watching the Back to the Future movie and seeing as a kid and seeing what's that big cello looking thing, and then Stray Cats, they played Stray Cats on pop radio, so I always liked that cat song, that Stray Cat song, that Stray Cat strut. Yeah, that sounds really cool. But it wasn't until actually watching Beavis and Butthead, I think it was probably like 10 or 11, and Psychobilly Freakout. In Beavis and Butthead, they would always do their little critique of the videos and everything, and Psychobilly Freakout was on there. And at that particular point in time, I was just getting into punk rock. I think Green Day and Offspring were starting to break on the radio, so that's where my music brain was getting into punk rock and all that kind of stuff. And I always had Reverend Horton Heat, that name, in my head, as I really should check them out. But where I grew up in like the suburbs of Detroit, and I didn't have access to I didn't know anybody who really was into that kind of music. The only record stores, or the only access to CDs or tapes, was whatever the grocery store had, and the grocery store was not stocking Psychobilly at that point in time. They weren't stocking Reverend. It was just whatever was on the top 40. But that was my first introduction to upright bass, and kind of what got my brain going, like, hey, this is a pretty cool instrument. I didn't get my first upright until I was 17, so I've been playing upright now for almost 2 decades, which is time flies. I'm 37. 2 decades, yeah. But Tom, you threw me off the damn question. But I started out playing guitar, and it was always like, oh, cool, I'm gonna play guitar. But then I realized that I would never be as good as a guitar player as Reverend Horton Heat or Brian Setzer or Chris Chaney from Living End. So I was like, oh, maybe I should just try bass. And also, everybody in school was a guitar player. And there was only one other upright bass player in my high school, because we were all kind of getting into the swing movement had kind of subsided in the late 90s, and then the Living End hit the radio, and we were getting into the Living End. And, at that point in time, we had Reverend Horton Heat CDs and stuff. And he was the first one to get an upright bass. And then I was like, oh, I really want one of those too, now that I actually could touch one in person. And at that point in time, his strings were, those steel strings that come with all the stock, basses you get off online. And had no idea how I was going to play it, but I wanted one. So, yeah.
So it was first the Stray Cats, and then the Reverend Horton Heat was pretty much the main thing in the beginning. But both of them have both Jimbo and Lee have a much more different technique than you do. They play I guess more traditional. How did you develop your own technique?
So when I first started playing, let me get the bass here. When I first started playing, I really, as with most things that I do, I didn't know what I was doing, and I probably didn't do it right. But I got the gist of it down, which was, but I couldn't write a rockabilly song to save my life. I knew how to write punk rock. Well, sorry, excuse me. I knew how to write punk rock, so I knew how to play punk rock guitar. So, when I would be like on, a D chord or whatever, I was like, okay, well, how would I, with what I know how to do now, how would I, implement the upright? So I would just, so very simple. At that point in time, I was I had learned about nylon strings. So I had super nils. I think Labella makes those, the super nil strings. And so my technique, my strings were much higher. My technique was seeing in pictures and seeing videos was, the whole hand slap. So even up until the point of recording the first Coffin Cat record, that's how I played. And then I would try to implement a double slap here and there. You know, I started getting into that. But as Coffin Cats started getting the first few shows down, I realized that I like to move around. And playing like this and trying to move all over the place and throw the bass around, I was losing it. I was missing everything. So what started to happen was my two fingers started to go 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. And I found, oh cool, I can actually keep up with what the drums are doing, and I can hang on to my bass while I'm throwing it around. So really where my style came from was just out of playing shows, and it just kind of evolved into that. But at that point in time, I wasn't doing anything fancy. I wasn't doing triplets or anything like that. I was just, like one of the first bass lines I wrote was for our song One Revived, which, I mean, that's a million other songs too. But that's as fancy as I was getting with the slapping. And then I was aware that obviously there's, plenty of other, attacks to slapping and everything. And the one that stuck out the most to me, of course, was Necromantics and Kim's playing. And I also liked metal at that point in time. I still like metal, but I love double kick pedal. I love the way that double kick pedal always does the transitions and stuff like that. And so I was like, man, it sounds like his upright bass playing sounds like a double kick pedal. And so I had no idea how to do it. And it probably wasn't until the first US tour that Coffin Cats did that we started playing with these bass players out on the West Coast. And I would pick up stuff from them and be like, oh, well, you have to use, lower tension strings, and you got to bring your action down. And it's like a finger roll that happens there. And at first, I was like, at first I was trying to get it, and I just couldn't understand how that technique worked. And then one day just playing, and then my thumb came out, and I just started doing that. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it wasn't that smooth, obviously, but I was like, all right, how can I use this in my playing? And so, for example, just here's a simple chord progression where I would normally be like, now I was like, oh, well, I can throw that in when I, switch notes. And right there is pretty much 90% of the playing that I do now. And I owe a lot of it to Kim Necroman.
Have you ever told him that?
I'm sure he's aware. I mean, he's seen me play. He's like, oh, look, he's jacking my style.
I think he's pretty much the guy that kind of like started that. We talked about it in during his interview, and I noticed. I mean, not that much now, but maybe 10, 15 years ago, lots of bass players were trying to emulate that style. Don't you think so?
I mean, I'm not the only one who does it, and I've seen other players do it and do it better than I do. So, it really for the style of music that Coffin Cats does, it really fits in well because we play fast a good portion of our songs, and it just, for me as a singer, bass player, and maneuvering around on a stage, it's just quick and immediate right there in the hand. I don't have to position myself properly to just try to get that. I have to do that kind of fancy stuff. I got to like really think about it and position properly. But I don't have time for that on stage. I'm here. I'm there. I'm there. I'm there. I'm avoiding Tommy's guitar. He's avoiding the bass. This was just it organically kind of fell in place then. That's what works.
Absolutely, it makes sense. You have a question about the strings. What kind of strings are you using now?
So, I'm currently using Rotosound RS4000s. They are the bumped set, which means this is an A string, this is a D string, this is a G string, and this is a high C string.
And is Kim using the same set?
I believe so.
Okay.
Kim, where are you at?
Yeah, we've been talking about him. Cool. Yeah, it's always the sound that I kind of associated these two styles. I mean, Coffin Cats and the Chromatics kind of like similar as far as the bass slapping style goes. I never got really into it too much, but maybe I should. I'll start practicing, get a different bass and bump it over. And
the one thing with it is that you kind of have to commit your instrument to that setup. So what happens is say we're playing a show and somebody's bass breaks and they're like, hey, can I use your bass? I'm like, yeah, here you go. Good luck. Because the strings are really low and they're a little floppy for some players, so they can't get that response, and it just becomes a nightmare for them. And then other players are like, oh, it's like, I've never played a bass like this. It plays like butter. So you really, to do this style properly, you do have to commit your instrument to it. It's obviously, if you're switching between styles or you want to switch between slap styles, it's not as easy.
I remember when I tried your bass for the first time. I believe it was in Long Beach or
that pizza place. I forget the name of it. Great venue.
Oh, yeah, it was Pizza Place. I forgot about it. Yeah, but was it Long Beach?
I believe so.
Yeah, somewhere. I remember that I drove a little south from where I live to see you. But we hung out like a few times, and I'm especially thankful like when you woke up at 6 a.m. to drive me to the graveyard so I can get that. Yeah, remember that?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we were trying to find gravesite of one of my slap bass heroes, Steve Brown, that recorded. If you're into traditional slap, you guys should check him out. He recorded some cool cuts with Gene Colquitt Orchestra in the 20s, and really had like a cool slap style. My favorite of his is Dinah. But we're not talking about Steve Brown. We're talking about Vic. But then I want to give you little tips how if you want to research the style, there are lots of great bass players that could be an influence.
I actually used to play Dinah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So what a lot of people don't know is that I played in a jazz band or played with a jazz artist for a while too, in between tours for Coffin Cats for a couple years. And it was kind of at first it was more gypsy jazz and then New Orleans style jazz. And I was doing that as a side gig, and I learned a lot. And also since then I've forgotten a lot. But his name's Gino Finelli. He once in a while actually go out on tour with us as an opening act. But he introduced me to a lot of different styles of jazz guitar and everything, and bass playing following along with it. We did a lot of Django Reinhardt stuff, minor swing and all that kind of all the classics. But yeah, so yeah. Side note,
I didn't know that. I love that style. Do you still play it occasionally, or?
So he lives down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and once in a while he'll get a gig up in Detroit, and I'll go play with him, and I'll have to dive back into my music books and to put the albums back on and try to remember everything for a set real quick.
I love that style. It's are you using the same bass or you're using a different bass when you play
I
with him?
was I like to have a second bass here at home, and I don't have one right now. I had to sell it, but usually I like to have a second bass that has steel strings on it, so I can play it and try to stay in shape with it. Because going from steel strings back over to these nylons, I mean, it helps you get ready for a tour very easily.
I was talking about it with Kevin Smith in the first episode of the Slapstream, and he was talking. He plays a lot with Willie Nelson, and he used to play with Dwight Yoakam. And then whenever he had to go on tour with his own band, High Noon, um, where he plays regular gut strings, he would practice on steel strings, get calluses or blisters, and then calluses, and then after a week or so, he would be ready to slap the way he wanted to on that level with High Noon. And I always loved High Noon. Any of the traditional rockabilly bands like as an influence to you on your playing?
So I can't really just name one because I would listen to all the classic stuff in compilations, and I mean, obviously you have your Gene Vincent, your Eddie Cochran's and stuff. When I was getting into the all things Billy, I of course got your main guys, the ones that you can easily find the CDs of, and all that stuff's fantastic, of course. Ronnie Dawson. I really liked a lot of those recordings and everything. And Ray Campy. And it was cool to see, like, I never saw pictures of Ray Campy, but it was cool to see, like, oh, look, he's playing an upright and he's singing. And this was right in a transition time of, like, when I was getting ready to get an upright bass. So, I mean, getting into this music, it was pre-internet or having phones that could give you everything you ever wanted, music-wise. So I had to go out and find a lot of it myself. I had to read, I would read Brian Setzer interviews in Guitar World and get a name here, get a name there. I tried to soak it up as much as possible. And every time I'd hear a new name, or I would go to the record shops and try to find a rockabilly section, which I got really lucky because in the late 90s, the swing movement was happening, and that brought back a lot of reprints and stuff to the CD stores. And so I was able to start picking that stuff up, a lot of the classic 50s, 60s, 70s recordings.
Did you ever get into that swing thing from the 90s?
No, this might sound weird, but I would later get into it, but at that point in time, I didn't like horns in music. Mm-hmm. So it just never really appealed to me so much. Things changed, but yeah. Not
even in ska?
I don't mean to single myself out here, but I've never been a huge ska fan. I appreciate it, but I've never been a huge ska fan.
I'm asking just because, like, usually it seems like to me that you come kind of like from the punk world, and lots of punk people that usually don't like the brass in jazz, but then sometimes you often like the ska sound.
Let me have a caveat there. The ska, the reason I never liked ska in high school is because it was just always so damn happy and upbeat, and I didn't like those kids. But I mean, of course, I love stuff like the Specials and that kind of stuff. But when it came to that upbeat, peppy, weird dancing around shit, I couldn't get into it. Obviously, I appreciate it for what it is now, but back then I was a lot more hard-headed, and so swing to me just felt like an offshoot of ska.
Oh,
but it's the other way around, of course.
Interesting.
Plus, also there's also this thing where the swing scene was morphing into the rockabilly scene, and you would have these people that would show up at the shows ready to swing dance, and they'd get pissed off when like mosh pits would happen. So that really turned me off to it too. It was just a weird thing that was happening here in Detroit.
That's interesting. I mean, since I grew up in Serbia, like none of that kind of.
I'm so far. I see
questions.
questions, but I'm so far away from the computer I can't read it. But
no, I'm monitoring everything, so
okay.
I will feature them, which is great. People,
right
please write down the questions. Oh, and I would like to ask you if you don't mind moving a little bit to the right, so you're actually central.
Okay. Look at that. All right.
Yeah.
And let me do this.
You're the star of the show, and your head is in a corner, so I felt like you should be closer. So Jason, he's asking, I know this is all about that bass, but wanted to compliment you and you on your vocals as well. One of the things that got me into Coffin Cats right away back in the day.
So much like not knowing what the hell I was doing with an upright, I didn't know what the hell I was doing with singing either. And originally the idea for Coffin Cats was like, oh, maybe we'll find a singer. And it was me and Tommy at the time. And then I was like, well, it's hard. We're having our trouble thinking of anybody who we'd want to have in the band. So I guess I'll do it.
Well, you sound great. I think that you have like a very unique voice, and then it's different than most of the psychobilly bands. So you have your own style, which is, as far as I'm concerned, always the goal.
Yeah, I think how we developed our own style was that we're terrible at trying to emulate anybody else's. Because when you first start out, you have your influences. Like at first it's like, shit, I want to have a band like Reverend Horton Heat. Love Reverend Horton Heat. I nowhere near as talented as that, so that went out the window. But maybe something caught on, stayed with me. And then, maybe I want to have a band like Demented Argo, but there's only one Demented Argo. And then I want to have a band like this, have a band like that. So you keep trying to emulate these bands that you're really getting into, and then all of those influences kind of roll into one. And if all works out well at the end, you have your own unique style.
I absolutely agree. That's, I always try to keep my ears open to any style and any band, and even like the bad bands, could be an influence. You learn something, so sometimes you learn what not to do. Sometimes you learn, what to do. So it's kind of like a necessary thing in the progress of finding your own voice. From Greaser and Car Guy, what's your opinion on electric double bass?
As far, like the stick bass.
I assume so. I don't have a clue. He just wrote opinion on electric double bass.
So, I mean, they're cool. They're easy to travel with. I wouldn't step on stage with one. It's just not my thing. I like having this all in front of me and stuff. That being said, I did recently purchase one because I wanted to see how it would sound on recordings. When we were doing demo work that I could do from home, and it was just easy to have around the house. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I can't play it. And I almost brought it today just so I could show how difficult it is for me to play, because I tried to get into it, and it even has this bar over to the side. And the way I'm so used to playing it, just the thing flops all over the place. Then I tried to put looser strings on it, and the little bridge fell over. But that being said, those who can rock it, it sounds great, and I'm envious of how easy it is to get the tones of those things, because that's one of the reasons I got it, because I was like, I wonder if I can get a stronger tone for recording with one of those stick basses, but I can't even play the damn thing.
I noticed whenever I play that type of an upright bass, I can't even call it upright bass. For me, it's kind of like a different instrument. But if I grab one, I have a zero desire to slap it. It just does not sound right. If I play it, I'm kind of more, I don't know, I want to play Indian music or Middle Eastern or something, something ethnic. or at least something more melodic.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I had gotten it as also for a practice tool to have at home, and I could just if I could step down in the basement for a couple minutes just to keep me fresh, and I can't even practice on it because it's just not set up for that. But that being said, I know Steve Whitehouse has played one in the past, and he absolutely rocks that thing, which I know because, hang on, let me dig into my CD collection here that I brought. Never mind, it's not on the back of that CD. But on one of the Shark CDs, I seen he had one. I was like, oh, I guess they can be kind of cool. So
Yeah, like it's cool like when you see Steve with it, but as I said, I played it a couple times, and I never really got into it. I mean, if I had like 10 basses or something, maybe I would get one, but like even those small Colstein basses that Lee Rocker played for a while, I had like a tour with Fish Tank Ensemble like once or twice on the East Coast, and I played it, and it sounded fine, but it felt weird. It's just I couldn't get into it really. Have you ever played one of those, like travel, like smaller?
no. If I can't, and as lame as this sounds, if I can't stand on it, I don't really get into it too much. Like that's why main reason you wouldn't see me on stage with a stick upright, because I can't implement it properly into a Coffin Cat show.
All right.
If I can't jump off the thing or make Tommy duck out the way of it properly, then I don't want to use it.
How do you keep interested in practicing bass when not with the band?
I don't. It only was recently after this whole Corona thing where I realized, like, oh man, we haven't been playing like we usually do, because we would tour and then be off for a month maybe, but and then do a couple practices right before getting back out on the road. But we haven't been doing that. We've been doing some studio stuff and all that, but not playing intense like we would normally do on stage. So recently I was like, all right, I got to start practicing again. And then when I seen that this interview date started looming closer and closer, I was like, uh-oh, I really got to start practicing again. What if I completely forgot how to slap the bass? I'm going to look like a damn fool on here on Art of the Slap Bass,
It's a weird thing, like after when Corona started, I haven't played bass like for a couple months or something. I was like, oh, this is weird. Because back in the conservatory I was practicing, I don't know, 5 hours a day or something, and then I started touring like crazy, and then I was out playing every night, and then if I had like a few nights off here and there, maybe I would play something or write music, but I would not really practice. And now when we're completely off, Tiger Army tour got canceled. We were supposed to leave on tour like about like a week after Corona started.
Yeah,
after lockdown started.
Same thing happened to us. In fact, I believe we would see corresponding posters at venues and stuff where your guys
really?
was coming. Yeah, and nope, that didn't work out very well.
Yeah, it was weird times. Chuck Carner is asking you, can you get any kind of sustain with, I assume, pizzicato playing with a bumped set of string, or are they strictly for slap? Oh yeah, it is pizzicato.
Is that sustaining long enough?
Are you happy, Chuck? Do you ever play with the bow?
No.
No. Have you ever tried it?
Yeah, it didn't work out because I didn't know at that. Well, I'm sure a lot of bass players on here, when they get their very first upright, if you get like the eBay one like I got for my very first upright, it comes with a bow, and then so you pull it out the bag and you're like, oh, cool. And I was like, oh, it doesn't do anything. Yeah, and then I learned about rosin, and that was a mistake. It tore my hand right up, and I was like, nope, never again. So.
I love playing with the bow.
I don't know how bow would work on nylon strings either, though. I never tried it.
Yeah, I tried it actually, and it did not work that well. So, but I have to be honest, I haven't spent I like too much time doing it on nylon strings. Ruben is asking, what was the Coffin Cats promo code? Coffin Cats promo code is Art of Slap Bass, and I will feature it a few times like this. So,
Hey, right
Art of
now I
Slap
got
Bass.
Tommy Coffin is actually running over to the shop computer and he's putting art. It's Art of Slap Bass, ARTOFSLAP So that's going to be 25%. What up? That's going to be 25% off of the Coffin Cat store at checkout. Yeah.
All right, and it's gonna be ready in 15 minutes.
With Tommy types like this, so give it about 10, 15 minutes.
All right. So Ruben, that's the one. Let me see if I missed any questions. Art of Slap Bass, thanks for helping out. Okay. How did Vic's custom night string bass come to be? Was Vic approached by them?
So yeah, Anthony Galler is the fellow that makes the night string bass. And actually, as a side note, I reached out to him before this interview because I wanted to see where he was at with the company. And he said at this point in time he's not making anymore right now, but he does have some basses for sale. But rolling back, yeah, Anthony reached out and was asking if I'd be interested in an artist relationship with night string bass. And at that point in time, I was actually in need of a bass because my Rode bass was falling apart. It was gaff taped together, and I was like, oh, time. Yeah, it is time for a new one. So that's how that happened.
Holly is asking, on standing, have you reinforced the body at any point?
So
also, do you still use 2 sound posts?
Yeah, I have. Let's see, what do I got going on in here right now? Yeah, there's 2 in there, and so you might be able to see it. Generally, I put some type of plating on the bottom of the bass, and that has 2 functions. Hopefully, it helps it keep the body together, but also when playing shows, monitor corners, if you're swinging your bass around, monitor corners like to punch holes in the bottom of the basses. So that's another reason that that's on there. I used to just basically get a new bass and climb all over the damn thing and throw it around until it would break. And then I'd see where the breaking points usually are at. And so for future basses, I'd go in and glue blocks on the inside. All of my basses, I put access doors in because I learned really quick, keeping my electronics on the outside, it was going to get kicked off, or beer was going to get spilled on it, or people were going to fall into it. So as much as possible, I keep my electronics on the inside. And so I keep an access door right here. And so I can reach inside, and that helps me get in there and do my Home Depot luthier work for reinforcement.
Let me see. You have some other questions. How long does it take you to put that door over there?
To put the what?
Put that access door.
Oh, well, this one was Anthony did this one, and it's done properly. So I'm not sure how long it took him. But if I'm let's see, if I'm out on the road and a bass magically appears and I need it and it's mine and I can damage it, I'll just see if I can borrow a scroll saw from somebody and punch. I'll get a drill and drill it out, and then I'll take gaff tape and make a gaff tape hinge, and then I'll gaff tape the other side so it sticks together. And I treat upright basses, for me, I mean, I would love to have an old K, which I would worship and respect, but otherwise, upright basses to me are tools. And that's kind of our approach in this band, is that we want to get the best equipment we can get, but don't nurture it. It's get out there, play the show as hard as possible, sacrifice your instrument if you have to, and we'll just use merch money to replace whatever breaks. And that's kind of always been how we treated it. And because if I shed a tear over every time that I got a scratch in this or punched a hole in it, man, yeah, I'd be crying all the time. For instance, I had there was a company called Norton Customs, and this fellow was out of the Detroit area, and he would take Shen bases and Christopher bases, which are, you know, they're not cheap bases, they're plywood bases, but not cheap. And so I got a custom, a really, I missed that bass. It was a custom Christopher bass. It was a Gamba style, and it was a beautiful flat black with like gloss black pinstriping, and it actually had a removable neck because I was going to try to, you know, fly with it and everything. Got out on the road with that, made it through the East Coast, and then got down into Texas. I remember playing at this venue, Lucky Devil, I think it was, in El Paso. And
Oh, I played there with Deke Dickerson like
oh, right on.
15 years ago.
Tommy jumped on the bass and blew the whole ass end apart, and it went like that. And so I finished the show, but, you know, losing the bottom of your bass, your sound, your string, your bridge, everything starts getting loose, and it was just going. You know, as you've had those where your bass is breaking and you can slowly feel the strings getting looser and looser and looser, and you're just like, please hang in there.
One more song.
Yeah. So and that's when I started really discovering on the road repairs, and I've done a lot of them because I drop shit, and, you know, the bass runs into something, necks break off. Oh man, they get knocked over sometimes, and they're fragile instruments that you really got to toughen up if you want to abuse them.
Oh, absolutely. How many basses did you have through your career?
I think I'm on number 8 or 9 right now.
Oh, okay.
I currently have 3. I have this one here, and then we have. So we're located in the Detroit area, and then we have a storage unit out in Las Vegas that we started having a couple years ago because it was cheaper for us to fly out to Vegas and rent a van and keep a second line of gear out there. The reason we chose Vegas was because the airline flights are much cheaper than flying anywhere else out west for us. And so that became our second hub. So I actually have another bass that I got from Norton Customs, which is a Christopher, which is a bass that I was originally had gotten for the jazz gig. And it was a beautiful, it was a Shen with violin corners and everything. Beautiful bass. And after one of my basses was on its way out and we were leaving for tour, I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to sacrifice this bass, and got out a can of black spray paint because a blonde bass in our band just wouldn't look right on stage. Sprayed it black and put like a leopard print on it, and out it went for abuse. and then I got another upright that's living in Slovenia.
Really? With my old neck of the woods.
Yeah. So I got a couple out there.
That's cool.
It's in Italy now. Okay, I don't even know where my bass is at. Yeah. So I got. I don't mean to be rude. I got my bandmates are looking at me through the control window and correcting me where I'm wrong. So.
Are they distracting you?
No.
No. Okay.
But if anybody wants us to do another song, I can put them in an awkward spot and try to implement them.
Yes, I want you to do another song. Are they ready?
You're gonna come out here and you're gonna tap on the snare drum. How about that? Just finger tap it.
Oh.
Yeah. Everybody, Ballman and Tommy. And Tom, there was requests for you to be more present in the video. You can't hide behind me.
I am the pretty one.
Yeah.
All right. Before we do that, I would like to thank Cooper Roth and.
Oh, you got another sticker? Look at that.
Yeah, another sticker. I told you should start. You should work on your YouTube channel. He's and he wants you to say hi to his dad, Rich. He's a
Rich.
huge fan, and he drives a Harley Davidson Ford, and calls it his V8 Nightmare.
Well, that's awesome. Right on.
All right.
Safe, Rich.
Hi, Rich. All right. So, what are you guys going to be playing?
let's go off one of those requests that you see. Just yeah.
Oh, requests. They were like a long time ago. It's let me see.
Quick, somebody request something again. But it has to be something that we remember.
All right, so we're doing quick request. Whoever is the first one. For blood.
Yeah. Okay.
For dead Mike.
Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah.
That's the first request.
All right.
How do you feel about him?
Well, we're gonna give it a shot.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna. Close the demon city gate and ring the sorrow bell. Sit me at bedside as thy brother's under spell. I fear that he shall never wake and the wind shall speak his name. South within the desert night, remember this dark day. For blood we raise, the mist in the air in dedication. Memory of one who sleeps eternally. For blood we sing, in honor of our demon brothers. Stay within our thoughts, he will not fade away. He's traveled on by sunrise, but his body stayed behind. Moving from the mortal world through the shadows of the night. Sounds within the city walls until the sun went down. And on that night our voices heard out a memorial song. For blood we raise, a mist in the air in dedication. Memory of one who sleeps eternally. For blood we sing, in honor of our demon brothers. Stay within our thoughts, we will not fail. Hey, hey, hey. I'll save you from having to do the solo. Good. Yeah. So.
Okay. No weird. Nothing weird.
Yeah. Just so everyone knows, we didn't set up for acoustic or anything like this. So if it sounds weird or you just hear me overpowering everything, I apologize.
No, it sounds good on my end, but I love hearing lots of bass. So it's all good. But Dead Mike said, "Love motherfuckers." So just like for whenever you feel like doing another one, like so, these are the requests. Splatterhouse. Laura wants needles and blades.
We'll do a little bit of it's a long song, but we'll get the gist of it because that's got a bass line in it. So
you want to do that one now?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Oopsie poopsie. Well, I was driving late at night in the Bickles upstairs, slamming down a beer as the radio played. Next thing I knew, the old truck had gone dead. I heard a roaring thunder, a lot up ahead and down all around me, little green man. Dressed up like doctors with the wickedest grin, psycho creatures from outer space, dressed in white with the needles and blades. Yeah, I get your body high. I'm drilling to your brain to corrupt your mind. You're under that command. I'll send your strength to hell, bring you back again. All right. Well, they put me in a room and they drugged me to sleep. I woke up on a table with them cutting on me. a drill to the head, assault to the chest. I know this ain't a dream. Blood is so red, I taste it in my mouth and it falls in my head. They dig through my body and they pieces of psycho creatures from outer space, wrestling white with the needles and blades. Yeah, get your body high. I'll really tell your brain to corrupt your mind. You're under that command. Send your strength to hell, bring it back again. And now. Hey! Woman at the mile, I'm bleeding from my eyes. I'm shaking all around. I only want to die, but spit away up here, way out of outer space. I know this is the end. I'm trapped in this place. Psycho creatures from outer space. Up to me and test my brain. Stitch me up with heels and blades and put me back together again. Yeah, that one went off the rails right there, ball man. I'm sorry. Yeah.
How about I want to see some clapping? You know, like what about some clapping?
Tom, clap for me, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Come on. Like, I want to see the audience.
Oh.
You know, like come on, guys, like clap it. All right. Can I see some hands? All right. Here they're coming.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. You know, everybody's happy. Corey, thank you. Haha. I miss seeing live music.
Yeah,
Megan,
playing live music.
fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
We all do. Hopefully. All right. And hand claps are
Thank
coming.
you guys for stopping by.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate your support. Thank you. Yeah. Oh man, say hi.
You got lots of claps. Check it out. Come on. This is like almost like a live show. Can't you hear these?
Hey, look at us.
All right.
Oh yeah. And so while they're all here and can witness it, yes, we are working on new music, and we will have some out soon. Yes.
And before that's out, we have a merch discount code that it's active now, right?
Yes.
All right. So go to the Coffin Cats merch store and type in Art of Slap Bass, and you'll get how big of a discount?
25%.
Oh man, 25%. You guys should all go now.
Stacking them deep and selling them cheap.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we got like quite a few comments.
Okay. My show. Yeah, my show.
See you guys later.
Later, dudes.
Thank you, cats. Banner. All right. So that's awesome. Yeah, thanks. I'm glad that they stopped by, to play. All these viewers are really appreciating. And so let's back on track. What I wanted to ask you, so how old were you when you started Coffin Cats?
I remember because I was not able to legally drink yet in the bars. I was 20.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. And have you played in other bands before that?
Yeah. So, let me jump in the Wayback Machine here. There was a band. So it's funny because the Coffin Cats kind of ties into original bands too. Tommy, and I met Tommy because I met his cousin first, and his cousin and I started like a country band because I was just getting. I didn't have anybody I could really jam upright bass with, and I happened to meet him, and we had similar interests, and he was really big in the country. So I started to get I started getting all that figured out, and we actually played one show. It was the first show I ever did with an upright bass, and it went horrible as far as got like 2 songs in. My arm did one of those death cramps where I was like, and then my bridge fell off like halfway through, and it was if you ever had a bridge fall off on stage, and just that anxiety, and the sweat starts pouring, and it took like 10 minutes to fix and get back in place. And yeah, so there was that, and that band didn't last very long after that. But I then went to play in a band called V8 Nightmare, which was me and a couple of buddies from high school. And V8 Nightmare was around for about a year, played the Detroit area. But all the while, I wanted to have a band. My whole thing was I want to get out on the road. I want to tour. So I had started playing with Tommy, and I would take. Oh, sorry, I got to step back. I had another band after or just before V8 Nightmare called Mephisto Mafia. And if you go on YouTube, you can actually hear early versions of Coffin Cats songs, which was like V8 Nightmare, Chainsaw Massacre. These were like the first psychobilly style songs that I ever wrote. I just got in the bass, and I was figuring out bass lines and stuff. And so those songs kind of happened when I got the bass. So there was Mephisto Mafia, V8 Nightmare, and then that turned into Coffin Cats. E-Ball, Eric, he was actually in punk bands with me throughout high school. I played guitar. And so he was always a drummer I knew. And so he actually was the lineup that is now was the very, very first lineup. And Eric couldn't tour, so Damien came into the picture, and that's when we released our first 6-song EP CD. And Damien had said, hey, a year from now, let's be out on the West Coast. And that was June of 2003, he said that. And by July of 2004, we were touring on the West Coast, just booked our own tour and said, let's see what happens. Bought an $800 van and hit the road. And we haven't slowed down since.
It's kind of hard to leave the road once you get hooked on it. That's a lifestyle that you get paid like to travel, and you're making people happy.
It wasn't like we hit the road and said, well, we're living out here now. Tommy and I both were employed at the same, like we planned things out, because everything we'd started doing with our lives revolved around making the band work. So Tommy and I started working at the same place. We started picking up all the crap work, so we would become valuable employees. So when we would ask for a month off, we would still have a job when we came back. And it just so happened that Damien was able to leave too. And so it very slowly started to work itself into being a 200 show a year, 250 some years shows a year band. It wasn't overnight. We had to kind of self-grow the success.
I mean, at that time, you had to stop having a steady job, right?
Yeah. So basically, it was right around the time that Tommy had left the band. It was, I think, 2008, 2009. And I just said, well, I think we're ready to go full time. And so we had a different guitar player, Ian, come in, and basically on a wing and a prayer, we're like, well, let's see what happens. Let's book 250 shows this year. And we did that straight for like 4 years. And it worked out. Yeah.
That's a commitment.
Yeah. And then, obviously Tommy came back in the band a few years ago, and now here we are, the original lineup all back together, or the founding lineup, I should say. So
all the 3 guys that you have now are everybody's original?
We get that question a lot, is what happened to the original drummer, and that was Damien, and love Damien. He's a good friend of ours still. And he wasn't able to, he had bigger plans. Like he actually had like a real career that paid money lined up. So that's, he went that direction. And then we had gotten another drummer after Damien, Ketch, and he was a friend of ours from high school, but he also had dreams of having a career outside of music. And then Eric was just right time and right place, was like, oh yeah, I'd love to hit the road with you guys again. So Eric's been with us ever since. And yeah.
Well, that's the best, when you can keep, the guys from, that you dreamed about, kind of.
We have a very, very weird relationship in this band. we see each other every day. We see each other more than we see our wives. We work together. Even before like this whole Corona thing, we had started a print shop together, and we all worked together there. We're very much involved with each other's lives. We all live like a couple miles within each other, and it's just a very, very. It's like basically they're like my brothers. It's a very tight knit band, and it works very well to our benefit because there's never any fights, and when it comes to writing music, it just falls right out of us. And I come up with a song idea, but if those guys go, nah, that's lame, or that sounds like something we've done, I'm like, you're right. I won't even question that.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. That's great. So all of you are songwriters in the band?
They're more song approvers. Tommy, because Eric's like, yeah, just whatever. Give me a cool song. I'll put a drum beat to it, and he'll figure that out. Tommy writes a lot of the guitar riffs. And sometimes I'll have maybe a bass line that in my mind I'll go, oh yeah, you know what, I can put that bass line into that song. And so I wouldn't say that I'm a primary songwriter because we all kind of chime in on it. Maybe I'll come up with a foundation, or sometimes Tommy comes up with the foundation of it. But we all, like, there's never been a Coffin Cat album where songwriting credits say VIC VICTOR on it. It just always says Coffin Cats, because I firmly believe that if you're a band that has members that are committed members that believe in the band, and I know 100% that they deserve equal writing credit. That's just where I come from on that.
That's awesome. And how many? I mean, besides these guys, how many other band members did you have?
Let's see. So we had Damien and Ketch were the two other drummers. And then Ian and Johnny were two guitar players after Tommy left, and then Tommy came back.
Oh, okay. So not that many, considering that Coffin Cat's been around for how long?
Since June of 2003. So, yeah, well, let's see. Let me do math here. Was that 17 years?
Oh. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I recently did a count, and we have done over 2,500 shows.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's great.
That. And all throughout North America and Europe.
That's amazing. Alisa, no, sorry. Hira is asking, thank you for the super chat or a super sticker. I'm not sure what it is. She's asking any more low note sessions.
Yes, absolutely. We are in low note right now, actually. Yeah, again, it's real life. Well, current real life took over, and our other job, we've been working long days, and by the time you get done with a 8 to 12 hour day of digging in the dirt, the whole thing of, hey guys, you want to go to the studio and start working on stuff, it's not the right time right now for us to get in there. Once the ground freezes, we'll be back in here cranking new stuff out, and also doing those low note studio sessions. If you go on our YouTube page, you can see we'll do like 4 or 5 tracks and record it live in the studio. Just something that we can do to stay sane and feel like we're performing for people, because it just feels really weird not doing shows.
A couple of people actually asked, like, what was the job? I'm not sure at what point was this, but now it's the sprinkler thing. But what was the job back then when you
we're kind of jacks of all trades. Tommy and I, we were carpet cleaners, and I think it's under, if anybody has our album Forever for Hire, if you lift the CD up, it's us in our carpet cleaning outfits, the uniforms we used to have to wear for work.
Do you have it with you, that album? Somewhere you can show it?
No, I don't.
No, okay.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that we've always we come from middle class, working class, and that's all we know how to do is just work. If we need to pay bills, if we need equipment, we work. But
one thing that always impressed me about Coffin Cats, that you guys, and me, you seem like very kind of organized, and you have your goal, and then you just make it work somehow. And then what you're saying right now, that's how I understood that you always were, right?
Yeah, we always once we got the taste of going around the country and not losing our ass on a tour, and because it's very risky. Bands go out there and don't make it through their first tour sometimes, and end up in debt forever. And yeah, it cost us a lot of money, and it was a lot of work and everything to get the funds to tour those early tours and stuff. But we did it because it was fun, and it was something that we always wanted to do. We always had each of us had a dream of being on stage. And why do we learn the instrument? We learn the instrument because we want to be on stage with the instrument. We all had that attitude, and we still have that attitude. It's just, we love playing live, and there's no better feeling when it comes to playing music than stepping out on a stage for us.
Pressures Salcado is asking, thank you for the super chat.
Yeah.
Vic, I got a question. What influenced the track Bottle Called?
So the Bottle Called, lyrically, musically, that track kind of came to me. I love the band The Cult, and I love the guitar playing in The Cult, where they just have some riffs that just stick with you. As soon as you hear that riff, you know exactly what that song is. And I wanted to write a song like that. So that's kind of how Bottle Called came into play. I was just messing around the guitar, and I had that riff. And then, we got the music down and everything. And then that particular point in time, we were very heavy partiers, heavy drinkers. And so we knew a lot about the destruction of what alcohol can do. So that song is just based around being, tied to the bottle, and what it can and can't give you.
Thirsty Crows are they're talking about ID merch, and they're giving you props. They say like that you make great quality products, right? They're talking about you, right?
So yeah, so ID merch. That was the building that we're in right now.
Okay.
We have, it's kind of a little strip mall building that we had purchased from band money, and we got a mortgage, and so what we did was, one half of it was the plan to put a studio in, and the other half we were going to have we have a print shop, a print and embroidery shop, and that's what we were doing between tours, so that we didn't have to worry about getting jobs where we'd have to try to get time off and everything. And so ID merch was going really strong, going great, and it was cool because we were able to print for a lot of bands, a lot of our friends and stuff. What happened was, when this Corona thing hit, 75% of our business was all touring musicians. And so when shows stopped happening, the merch orders stopped happening, and it was a real hard decision, but it came down that we had to basically shut down the printing presses because we had to go find other lines of work. And that's where earlier I talked about us going and now being, we're sprinkler dudes. We were fortunate enough to find work and everything, but there just wasn't enough work coming in to keep the shop open. So, and there's just not enough hours in the day to print orders. So we temporarily now have ID merches shut down. So.
But there is a discount code, Artist Lab Base, for all your merch.
Because there is a plethora of Coffin Cats merch, because when you own your own printing presses and embroidery machines, you make your own merch. So we did stock up on that because at the beginning of this year, we had this was going to be all out touring year. Like, we were going for it. And so I was like, well, with all these tours, I'm not going to have time to get in there and get all this merch printed. So in January, I was a madman printing all of this merch. So we got like a year's touring worth of merch just sitting on the shelves right now. And but I mean, like, again, I'm forever grateful. We have such an awesome friend and fan base that people have helped us keep the roof over our heads. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of it's just amazing to have a job like these days, or to find a new job. You know, if you're a musician and want to do something else. Um, and Thirsty Crows, they're saying we'll be flying out to record our next uh, album at Low Note Studios in 2021.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah, is that Chris Sanders behind that, Thirsty Crows? What's up, man? I sent you a message. How come you don't respond to my message? No, I'm looking forward to it, dude. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, and yeah, that's the other thing here is I really wanted to focus on getting Low Note off the ground. Recording music has always been like a secret passion of mine. Let me set my bottle down. Ever since I first went into a studio, I think I was like probably 17 or 18, and actually like heard guitars recorded and seen them up on the fortunately there was Pro Tools at that time, because that's a whole nother side thing, but seeing the waveforms on the screen and just hearing stuff come back over the monitors, like it stuck with me. I was like, that is so cool. But throughout the early years, and well, most of the time of Coffin Cats, it was just it's so just pre-obligated with touring, and just keeping the machine going, that there was no spare time for me to try to learn how to record or anything. And it's no secret that we used to party pretty hard. So the time that the free time on tours that we should utilize, we were all pretty much too hungover to try to learn anything new, because you have a lot of downtime on tour, of course. So you would think that you should utilize that time well to learn a new skill. No, it was mostly spent being hungover and just getting onto the next stage and getting back into shape for playing that show. And but in the recent years, I did utilize that time, especially when we'd be on tour in Europe. The last couple European tours, you don't have phone access like you do in the States. So I would go and download a lot of learning materials for recording and stuff. And I just studied my ass off and just started recording stuff and mixing it on the down low, and to the point where I felt comfortable enough that I could actually offer the services. And fortunately, we have friends that are in bands, and I just say, hey, if you guys are interested, I'd be happy to record you or mix your stuff.
That's awesome. So you're an engineer at the studio?
I am the engineer here at Low Note Studios. Yes.
Oh, cool. So whoever wants to reach you, like regarding recording,
yeah,
how should they get in touch with you?
You can do it through the Coffin Cats page, or I have an email, which is lownoterecordingstudio@gmail.com. I mean, I can send over that stuff later to put in the description and all that. But
sure. And so just to you guys, if you want to follow Vic or Coffin Cats, all the links are below and they're in the description. I think it's time to talk a little bit about some slap. How do you feel about that?
Yeah,
we've been talking about everything except
real
slap.
Quick before we move to that part, I wanted to bounce back on bass reinforcement real quick.
Okay.
And show people one thing that I have that I wish I had a long time ago, because it probably would have saved a couple of my basses. This was an idea that came across when I had the first Norton custom made. It was a spring-loaded endpin. So when the bass comes down, the spring, it's just a little spring, but it's enough to take a shock away. So when the bass slams down on the endpin, if you're lifting it up and you're not being careful with it, the spring takes the shock away. And normally this is up in my bass, and inside of it there's also a clamp sleeve that comes down that holds it in place, so it can do its thing and not slip out. The last show that we did, the clamp came off and it almost poked Tommy's eye out as it was flying off. But so normally that's up in there and it's a spring-loaded end pin. That's all I have to say about that.
Sounds like a weapon. Well, if you ever decide to make these things publicly, I'll be your first customer. I'm throwing my bass a lot, and then that sounds like a good idea.
Other pro tip too is that you'll see that that's just the raw metal. I always recommend, and I recommend it, but sometimes I totally forget to do it. Put some sort of rubber or like a tennis ball or something when you're playing these wood stages or these concrete outdoor shows like parking lot stuff. If you drag that bass along, especially if you're using a Piezo system, your whole bass is going to become a big microphone for that dragging. And I played too many of our shows where I'm like, I really wish I would have remembered to do that. Always have some sort of decoupler, from the end pin to the floor. Yeah.
That's good to know. So let's what do we want to let's figure out what is a good thing like to talk about as far as slap. I want to get a lesson from you. I want to ask you a few questions. You told me that you developed your style basically through watching bass players like Kim, and
so first
you develop your own style.
The first bass player that I was able to see in person and who actually had a lot of influence on my mentality as far as what to do, what you can do with the instrument in a live show, was Pistol Pete from the band Twist and Tarantulas. And they had a pretty popular cover of Ace of Spades, and I would listen to that thing over and over and over to the intro, just like, how do you do that? How do you do that? Because he would do the guitar part, but he would do it with upright bass, and it was something like, oh, okay, of course I'm gonna flop all over the place on it, but something like that. And that was completely foreign to me, and it wasn't until like probably the halfway point of my bass playing career that I could finally figure out that whatever is that, would that be considered a triplet too, I guess?
Well,
this discussion, I've seen
when I talk about that, I usually talk that it's a triple slap, but I wouldn't say it's a triplet, because triplet would be like triplet will be always each note would be the same. So that's kind of like a closer to that country thing that you were talking about, like ding 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 ding, just like much faster. So I usually call it gallop, but it is a part of a triple slap.
Yeah, there's one thing I'll say that I absolutely love about the series that you're doing is that just when I thought that I was like, oh, I think I know what that means, I watched these episodes and I go, no, I didn't know anything about that, and I've learned so much stuff just watching this series so far. So you're doing a really awesome thing, and it's something that I wish that I had when I was first getting into playing upright bass, because again, we live in the future world. The information is right there at all times. Whatever you need to know, you just got to look for it a little bit. But when I was getting into upright bass, there was nobody to talk to. There was like forums to read, but a lot of those forums I'd end up in, you start talking about slap bass, and then let alone you start talking about psychobilly bass playing, which I obviously interested in. People would shut you down like, we don't talk about that here, and what are you talking about? And rockabilly was the punk rock in some of those forums.
It's weird. I remember, thanks a lot. It means I've been getting like great feedback on the series, and I'm really happy that I'm able to do this. And then, people have been very supportive and great comments, great feedback, really great. And then I'm glad that people enjoy it. My goal was always to present slap as just one of the regular double bass techniques. And I strongly believe that, everybody who plays double bass should basically learn all the techniques. But, rockabilly or psychobilly bass players usually lack playing with the bow, which really helps developing good intonation. Like most of the bass players that play with the bow primarily, it's not that they're just don't play slap, they're just against it, and it's just like a stronger pizzicato that gives like that little extra push even if you play it in classical music. I mean, like Bela Bartok, a Hungarian composer, was using slap on um, on other bowed instruments, and I always thought it sounded great. So yeah, it's good. The goal is to present every aspect of slap bass.
Yeah.
There's
So,
no
you know,
end.
my plan is to continue watching this series as I have, and hopefully on the other end of it, I can come out even stronger.
Yes, we all should. Um, so you mentioned uh, what is the bass player's name from Twistin' Tarantula?
So Pistol Pete from the Twisted
Pistol Pete.
Tarantulas.
All right.
Yep. And he's online. He floats around sometimes in that Upright Bass Players Union, and Pete Midgard would be his name on there. But I highly recommend him to have him on your show. He's played with a lot of other bands too, and he's just a complete beast when it comes to playing the upright bass. And
Awesome.
A big local influence of mine.
I'm familiar with his name, but I have to admit that I'm not very familiar with his playing. I'm familiar with Twistin' Tarantulas, but it's been a while, so I should probably listen to it again.
He's also a vocalist bass player, so that
Oh, cool.
seeing that was another kicker right there. Was, oh, well, you can play intense and sing at the same time, you know, and that was kind of gave me like I should try this, you know. And
Yes.
it was I think because I played guitar and sang, it was a little easier to kind of just start singing and playing the bass and everything. But I'll tell you one thing, like trying to get at very first, trying to get your words to separate from what your hands doing. That was, I'm a terrible drummer. I can never drum. So trying to get my brain to separate to be able to sing and focus on that and just do all this was hard at first, but just keep at it. It all works out.
Yes, and I would like to mention a little bit when you were talking about the days when you were. Do you remember when was the year that you started learning upright slap bass?
I got my first bass when I was 17. I'm pretty sure it was 17 or the end of 16. So as soon as I had gotten it, because like I said, a buddy of mine had one, but he had the stock strings that would come with if you ordered a Chinese plywood upright bass. He had a Palatino, but the stock strings, and man, his poor fingers. He was like, "Well, look what you got to look forward to." Always just bubbled up and blistered and everything, and he was bigger dude than me, and he could really just get in there and wail on the thing, and then I'd touch it and be like, I couldn't even make a slap happen on that thing, and
And what year was that? It was late 90s, or when was it?
That would have been like 90. Let's see, I'm 37 now. But it was like 90 when I you know what, I can, this is how I remember things, is weird little things. We would, after school, we'd go and play NASCAR 98 at his house. So it was around 1998. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, it was hard back in those days to find any slap information. There were like a few of those instructional videos. There were Lee Rockers, there were Kevin Smiths, and Mark Rubens, and Bill Kinton's a couple of years before that, and Marshall Wilburn did the Bluegrass in '96 or something. But they were not widely available. You really had to dig deep.
I had to special order that Lee Rocker video through Guitar Center, and that was like $60 or something like that for the videotape.
I have the same story.
I got it. I remember because like I had to mow a lot of lawns to get that extra cash, and I was like, all right, we're gonna make this investment, and we're going to learn it because it was very expensive. And I put it in, and I got about halfway through it, and I was like, oh, well, he makes it look easy enough. And I always make this joke, like, if you're there's probably some guitar players here too. The Brian Setzer video, where the classic Brian Setzer guitar training
Hot
video.
Licks, yeah,
the Hot Licks is, you put that in, and it just makes you want to put your guitar right back in its case, and that's pretty much what that Lee Rockers video did to me too. Yeah. So it really, I found out that like just being in person and slowly seeing how people are doing things and people showing me stuff in person. That's how I picked up, these techniques.
That's always the best. I didn't have a chance like to see almost anyone back in Serbia when I was starting, and I just tried to find every possible information. And when I found Lee Rockers, and it was also really expensive, I had to, find somebody to order it in US and then to ship it to Serbia. It was a little fortune, but I was determined to get every single thing that exists in the slap world. I wanted to have every article, every video, anything, so
yeah,
I
thought
before YouTube.
I thought I had it rough here being a kid, where I was like, I'd go into these record shops and try to like special order. I'd hear about European psychobilly bands that did not have distribution here in the US. And I was like, oh, I thought I had it rough when I would have to wait, like a month or two for the special order to come in. And then, I watch your show and here's bass players talking about, dealing with the Berlin Wall and dealing with, war-torn countries at that point in time, and trying to order things and, black market orders. And I'm like, oh, well, I ain't got shit on that. So
yeah, I got a lot of my music back in the day from the kind of like a black market style. And thank you, Carolyn. Current highlight of my week, Slapstream. It's the highlight of my week too. I'm like really looking forward for these few hours every Saturday to talk about slap bass. There's nothing that I prefer to talk about more than slap. And Slapstream, I'm kind of doing it for myself, to keep my sanity as well, and to provide all this valuable info. Toombs is asking, how's that done? I assume slap bass. We're going to talk about that in a second. Just bear with us. Where on your hand are you hitting to get that sound? Well, Vic prepared a special video for that, and then we're going to play that in a second. And Greaser and Car Guy, yes, Vic answered this question, so you can rewatch this episode. And somebody mentioned that the discount code isn't working yet. That was like from 15 minutes ago. So maybe try it now. I don't know. Or
maybe. And I'll go back on there after this. If it's not working during this live stream, when the live stream is done, I'll make sure that it's working.
Again,
maybe Tommy didn't hit the enter button or something.
Who joined us in the meantime? The code is Art of Slap Bass. I will occasionally play it here under the video, so you can see it's Art of Slap Bass. I
bet Tommy spelled it wrong.
Well, he should just text us and let us know what is the new code. And for how long are you gonna keep this code?
I'll keep it going for 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks. Oh,
yeah.
All right. I thought it was a day or two, so I wanted to rush people.
No, I look forward to sharing this video as much as possible. Like I said, I too love slap bass, and it's cool because I get emails from people saying like, hey, my kid's learning how to do this, or somebody's just getting into it and stuff. And it's awesome now that there is going to be a video and a video series where I can just forward them right over to it and say, this is the best way to do it, because if I type it out and try to explain it, it doesn't translate.
Have you ever thought about like doing instructional like series or something?
No, I am not that talented and knowledgeable enough for that, really.
You're influential. People love your style, so I think we're gonna do a little bit of that right now. So what is the first thing you want to show us?
So this is the technique that developed over, for those of you that play in bands that play faster stuff, and like basically when you want to break it down to the basics, Coffin Cats is a punk band with an upright bass. We write punk chord progressions and stuff, and so it's usually faster than 120 beats per minute. And so I found that when we were playing live, I was trying to stay on with this, but also do this and throw the bass around and everything, I was missing it. And also, as my action started to get lower and lower to get more comfortable for the slap response, I started digging in with the finger. So one finger, and then that started to go into 1 2 1 2. Now let me state that this is after I discovered nylon strings. It doesn't, unless you got a macho hand or whatever, it doesn't work as well with steel strings, or you just end up shredding your fingers. But with the nylon strings, so this is just how I just started, implementing this into my playing, And the other thing too is that I also I'll sometimes hold the bass like this, and I found that doing the this slap, it just wasn't working so well. So the 1 2 1 2 kind of hooks and holds your bass in place as well. And then from there, I made the video for the 1 2 1 2 thing, so we can go over that first, I guess.
Before we get into that, I want to ask you, so are you playing always with point finger and middle finger, or you play both of those together?
So it's one, and that's two. So the point and the middle finger.
So you never use like a 2 or 3 fingers at the same time?
Well, sometimes when you're in the heat of battle, your fingers are going to do whatever the hell they want to do. But the meat and potatoes of my playing is this. I'll try to spread my fingers out further so you can see. Yeah, that's the meat and potato of my playing. And then as I got better, the Kim Neckerman style started falling into place.
Let's play that video that you prepared for the 1 2 style.
So
and we're gonna comment like when we do the slow-mo as well. Just don't forget to unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let's do that.
Technology. So
Do you always start with point finger?
Yeah, I think so. I usually the first notes with the point finger, and then I do a lot of string skipping. So I'll reach down and grab the next one with my middle finger. Once in a while, the ring finger will sneak its way in there too.
Oh, so you would sometimes slap with a ring finger as well?
Yeah, sometimes I get a little wild.
Like that reminds me a little bit on that jazz technique. Like there were like a certain bass players, like Scott LaFara, I believe, was the first one that started using fast pizzicato with 3 fingers, and then he was able to be, faster than the other guys, and that became its own thing. I'm glad you're showing these like in slow-mo. I think it really helps.
This is, and it also helps to pre-record it like this, because when I try to show, this technique's easy to show slow, but as we continue here, there's other techniques that when you try to slow them down, it's just you totally forget what you're doing. You kind of just have to let the motion, the momentum do the work.
Yeah, some patterns are really hard to explain. Any kind of roll is hard to explain by itself. Nikki is saying, "Wow, that's an impressive technique. Never ever think of doing it, but I think with practice, it should help with fast songs." And actually, people dig the slow mo. Slow motion is great from
Cool.
Tooms.
Yeah, it kind of goes on for.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was playing fast songs, so it actually doesn't. You can see something happening.
Yeah. All right, we can stop it now.
There we go.
If people want to watch it again, they can rewatch it. What is the next thing that you wanted to show?
All right. So this is what I consider my Kim Neckerman ripoff technique. But this is the album from Necromantics, the first HeadCat one they did, Return of the Loving Dead. I believe it's at the end of I think is it Subcultural Girl, but there's a roll that Kim does. And so I was like, I don't know how the hell he's doing that. I love the way that sounds. And, eventually over playing with other bass players and kind of give you the lowdown, I got the idea. It took me a long time to get smooth with it, but this. So it's not something that I use all the time in Coffin Cat stuff. I use it as like a double kick pedal would for the bass drum. I kind of use it in that way for like transitioning in the notes and stuff. Or if I'm just playing a bland 1 2 1 2, maybe I'll throw a little flourish into it. So this next video that I sent you, it's just basically it's me doing this. But this is one of those things where it's like if I try to slow down and show you what I'm doing, it's not going to work right. So that's why we have the video here.
That's why we have the slow-mo as well. And people love it. That's great. I noticed that with the triplet slap, that I would also consider that as triple, but triplet in this case, that you kind of have to be careful with it when you want to use it. When you're a kid and you learn how to play triplets, you're so excited and you want to play it all the time, and then it's just too much. But if you use it in certain spots, and as you said, as a drum roll or something, it's amazing. It sounds like really cool, like different sound. And I still, I've been playing slap for a very long time now, and I'm still excited when I hear it. It's like, what is this? Oh, it's slap. It's cool. All right, let's play that one.
It's the first time I ever learned how to use the iPhone slow motion feature.
I never used it, so maybe I should. Okay, so first is a pull with point finger, and then a second slap is basically your ring finger.
Yep. And then that thumb comes down to give a little extra oomph.
But the thumb, which I see, and if that's, since you're talking about like Kim's technique, this was what Kim was saying as well. But I always add one extra slap. So the third one, the end of the triplet, is the thumb with the point finger kind of together.
Yes, but
okay.
if say I lost my thumb, I could still do this technique. I just have to give a little bit more oomph on my pointer finger.
Yes. That's something that I was missing. Okay, and it's always pull with a point, and then
That's
the second one is the ring finger, or sometimes you can go like thumb and then finish with the ring finger.
yeah, and I mean sometimes the pinky sneaks its way in there too. It's just basically pulling with your ring finger, karate chopping, and then bringing your thumb and your pointer finger down for that last slap. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, let me try that. Let me try that.
So-
Let me try that while we're at it. Comment. Slow mo is just hypnotizing. That's what Alyssa says. Slow mo helps a lot. Helps a ton. And Nikki, who's obviously a Coffin Cats fan, says, I think he uses that triple slap in between parts of ball cold, and it's like a little magical sound in between. Is that it?
Oh.
That's more like a roll,
uh,
like more like an ornament and less of a triplet.
let me try to remember how to play bottle called. I'll let your love die. Oh, let your love die and just stand with me beneath the dream of any normal life. Footprints on your soul have stomped down your will. So why are you? I'm all over the place, but yeah.
We're gonna talk about that one as well, and then I would like to talk about with you about the terminology that you're using for slap as well. But let me grab my bass real quick. And I wondered, like, didn't anyone like try the discount code yet or not? It would be cool if you did.
When we
So you can let us know if it's working or not.
yeah, when we play the next video, I'll see if I can check on it real quick. So.
Oh, cool, makes sense. All right, have my bass ready.
Not being rude, I'm just actually texting Tom right now, who might still be next door, and saying,
Oh, okay.
"Hey, that
To
Hey,
fix
there's
fix the code. Let me show the code again. I'll do that a few times, so hopefully, some of these people will get cool Coffin Cats merch like this one. Do you have this one at your store?
Yes, I do.
All right.
That is the 2000. I believe that's the two. Yes, the K is the other way around. Because I was never a fan of our backwards K, but it was just part of the logo. So I flipped it around and put a distress over it, and I think we put established 2003 at the bottom of it. So that's the new version of that.
Are you the one doing the designs for these?
No, so that that logo, it's short story here. A longtime friend of mine, Sam Wolf, before Coffin Cats, he's a tattoo artist who's done a lot of work on me. We were bouncing band names around, like, oh, in fact, we're making the joke of cliche psychobilly names, and he actually had one that he had thought of previously called Coffin Cats. And after I was, disassembling the band V8 Nightmare, we were going to go with a different name, and I was like, "Hey Sam, I want to use that Coffin Cat name. Is that cool?" And he was like, "Yeah, here's a logo for it." And that's how Coffin Cat's name came about. The idea is that I loved the sound of it, and it sounded like something that should already be a band name in psychobilly. So I was like, well, this ought to work.
But did he say, like, but you have to play psychobilly, or that was kind of like all
I mean, at that point in time, yeah, we were heavily into psychobilly influences, so I don't think he questioned it. At this point in time, I think he's cool with everything we've done so far. I mean, we've as a band, we kind of branched out and stepped all over the place. But lately, I looking forward to writing and actually being able to record Coffin Cats now. It's put my mindset into writing being fresh again. Like, I really want to have go back to when we were writing the really intense, powerful stuff. and get away a little bit more from I wouldn't call it poppy, but I wanted to really focus on melodic music for a while, and I got that out of my system. And now these upcoming tracks, we're getting back to kind of our roots and what, you know, influenced us, you know, to create Coffin Cats.
All right.
So I went around a big circle there. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm a terrible artist for drawing, so no, I don't make any art for us.
So
I can do some Photoshop stuff, but yeah.
Okay, you're going back like Metallica, you know, like going like to your kill 'em all phase.
Yeah, right. Yeah, which is funny because I was inspired by Four Horsemen for this next upcoming video that we're gonna go over.
Oh, cool. All right, so what you gonna show me?
Okay, so this is something that I just came up with where I'm like, this is a good thing to practice as you're getting that, if you're practicing that 1-2 thing. So here we go. One, I got that swing going. So this is what I like to do with Coffin Cat stuff is we'll have, you know, I'll be usually following the root note, maybe, you know, maybe playing along in the chord, playing something else. But then when it comes time to do quick chord changes, that's where I like to throw in that triplet thing.
So it's in D,
D.
and the other notes are
What was that?
E flat, B flat, right?
Yep.
And then F and C.
Yep.
All right, let me try to play it the way I would play it, and then I'll try to play it your technique. Before I do that, I wonder if everybody can hear my bass as well. Let me see. I've been doing this for 18 episodes, but I still have like some.
Well,
So I'll play it a little bit, and then you guys can tell me if you can actually hear me.
it sounds good on my end.
Sounds good. All right. So I'll try to play. So there's no slaps on those roll slaps. They're on D, right? So you're just doing it.
So if I'm gonna hang, this is what if I'm hanging on a note for a while, I'll split that hang up in the middle with like a triplet. So usually I'll be like.
Okay, so let me try, but I'll first try like with the technique that I'm used to, and then I'll try to learn a little bit of your approach. So for all of you that have your basses with you, and I hope that all of you have it. If you don't, order one and practice. So the notes are D, E flat, B flat, F, C, and then back to D. Actually, let me lift up my hand. Okay. Try to play here. It's a little bit too high, but. Something like that?
Yeah, look at that. Can you show me how you throw your hand out there and it just you got all those slaps happening? It looks like. So like
well,
I'm so used to doing it one way, my hand automatically.
Yeah, I like doing it. Let me. I realize that I have 3 different ways.
Is it considered a drag?
Yeah, some people call it a drag, and I do it like different ways. Like first one that I usually, if I do a masterclass on slap, I talk about all these as as a roll slap, and the basic one is the one that I do just with fingers. And so if I was playing this line with just fingers, would be like this. So that will be the basic one. And then I would add what some people call drag. I still like calling that roll, but I use this part and this part. I finish it's the same ornament. So rhythmical figure is the same, but it goes like, I'm trying to figure out. So I'll go to-do-doom. Instead of just to-do-doom, it's to-do-doom. So it's what Kevin Smith does with High Noon. So that sounds like this. And there's a third one that I do with a thumb. But do you want to try any of these first? Or?
Let me tell my hand, do not do that thing that I like to do. So here. And I don't want to use the excuse either that I have roto sounds that are bumped, so they don't smack your hand back. But it is hindering me a little bit. See, I just want. Yeah. All right. Well,
it's a tricky, like when you're used to one way or another, and the setup. I mean, I have kind of like a high action steel strings that are
like, what are you doing?
no bumped over. Sorry.
My brain's like, what are you trying to do? We've already learned as much as you can learn. So.
Yeah. And then there's like a third way that I do the same pattern with a thumb, that it's kind of like a little extra on top of it. And it's real helpful when if you play on G string, when you actually cannot drag. That's why I came with that idea.
Yeah.
Kind of like to fake, that drag here on top, instead of, since I'm not able to do it here. So that would sound like this. Trying to play. I usually play here, but you cannot see.
Yeah.
So somebody complained already. So let's see. It's hard to play like a little higher, but that's the idea. That's basically the idea. Are you there? Okay. I can hear you a little bit less now. Okay, now it's fine. All right, now let Vic, I'll solo myself and wait for Vic to come back. Thanks to all of you for all these comments. Hey, Dusty, I can feel myself getting smarter. It hurts. Well, Dusty is a very smart guy. So I hope that all these little slap bass lessons are helping you out. Well, it sounds the same. Vic's technique. Make an angle movement. Djordje use it just to push over movement without changing the hand gesture. I think that all of these sound a little bit different, but it matters what kind of strings are you using, if they're bumped over by Vic's or my are pretty high action and they're steel, and they're not bumped over. So.
Really, it's the reason that I went over to using the lower tension, like the bump style, is I kind of like use it as a work smart, not hard attitude when it comes to I'm already focusing so much energy into trying to sing and do a stage show that I found that when I had higher tension strings, my hand would tire out. I would not, by the end of the set, I would not be able to give the out of the gate performance that I had. So moving over to this bumped out set like this, and I've been playing bump now for probably about 13 years, something like that. But it just, like, I can do this all day now. It's just, it happened as a matter of, well, one, I could start to implement the things that I liked hearing, like in necromantic stuff and fast European psychobilly stuff. I started being able to implement stuff like that with these strings, and also I wasn't dying by the end of an hour and 10-minute set.
What were the you mentioned a few times European psychobilly influence? Who would you mention? Is there anybody in particular?
So I actually did a little mental homework, and for me, it's something where if you would just ask me a question like that, or people ask me like, what are your influences? And I'm like, all these names start swirling around because I am a product of multiple bands I like. But one of the let's see here. Let me go over to my box of CDs here that I put in chronological order. These are the CDs that I got when I was interested. I was learning about upright bass before I had my upright bass, and right up to the time that I got my upright bass. So we can go into story time with that, or we can do the next lesson and come back to it. Whatever you want to do.
You can you're holding the box.
Okay.
Show us the influences.
All right. Let's see here. So, and it was not European psychobilly at first that I had gotten into. So I'm sure a lot of people have this in their collection, but Reverend Horton Heat, Liquor in the Front. So as I had said previously, Beavis and Butthead was what introduced me into the idea of psychobilly, and the psychobilly freakout video, and then I think Wiggle Stick was a video on there. That was my only access to Reverend Horton Heat, and I was actually I used to go into pawn shops when I was a kid and find CDs, and I got lucky and found this Liquor in the Front CD, and so that was my first psychobilly CD that I scored. And then, fortunately, I was lucky enough to find this in like a Meyer supermarket, which was the full custom sounds of Reverend Horton Heat. And then I remember I found this at like a flea market, the Smoke 'em If You Got 'em. These are like, I can remember like, these are the first CDs. I was so excited to find these CDs because it was like, it's got that band I like. It's got that upright bass sound that I like. And, then there was Martini Time I found, and I found Space Heater. But let's see. One of the big ones is this Stray Cats bootleg called Struttin'. And it's an all live CD. It's got 15 tracks, and it was different shows throughout. And so it had different bass tones. Like it sounded like direct from the board recordings, but that it was really cool because there was some where Lee Rocker's bass was really strong in the mix, and so that got me thinking, and I could start to really hear like his articulations and stuff like that, which sometimes is hard to hear in those Stray Cat recordings. Then a lot of people probably remember when this one hit. It was the Living End with Prisoner of Society. And this, you got to remember, I didn't know or have access to a lot of, I had to order stuff, but this was this hit kind of big, so it was easy to get at the record shops. And then a lot of good upright playing on this album, which was the Mike Ness Cheating at Solitaire album. These are all things that I would get, and I'd start soaking them in and listening to the playing and starting to understand that there's all kinds of different techniques. And also keep in mind that at this period of time around getting these CDs, HeadCat Records put out those Give 'em the Boot compilations, and that had Necromantics on it and Tiger Army. So that's where I was starting to become aware that there's there's bands that play like a punk rock style that have like a harder edge punk rock style that have upright bass, and at that point in time, like Kim's playing really started to poke out to me, like that's really unique sounding. And then I also was into country, still am into country, in this live BR 549 album, the Live at Roberts, was a album that lived in my CD player for a long time, as I was starting to learn how to do the doom 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 doom. One standout track here that would boggle my mind on how to do it was the Malaguena on the Ignition Brian Setzer solo album. And it's one of my favorite upright bass solo tracks to this day. Then Twist and Tarantulas, I was able to score this at a local record shop because they're a local band. But like I said, this is where I was able to finally get a recording of Pete, who I had seen live, but now I had a recording to hear how his style, was, mixed and all that stuff. And then I finally, this album started showing up. I'm sure a lot of people know this album, the first Tiger Army album that showed up at the record shops. And then around the same time, that album showed up. And so my mind was just starting to get blown by like, oh man, there's so much awesome upright stuff. And then this Living End, this is probably some of my favorite upright bass recordings. This 2 EP split thing. And it's awesome that you had Scott Owen on here as well. And then, so this is when I started working at a record shop, and I rated the record shop of everything that I could find with upright bass on it. And this Sharks Color My Flesh album, this is a fantastic album. And I really started, hearing how Steve approached the upright, and, he's a phenomenal player. The second Amazing Crowns album, awesome upright playing on that. Like I said, these are the albums that I got as I was starting to dive more into the instrument, and these are the things that were available to me at the time. Then I remember it was a very good day. These special orders started coming in, because I would go through all the catalogs when I was working at the record shop. I'd go through all the catalogs and find like, ooh, here's a Psychobilly album. So Osmodeus, Psycho on Hell's Request, awesome upright playing on this album, and very big early influence on Coffin Cats stuff. Then I learned that not all Psychobilly has to have upright bass at all times. I got this Meteors bootleg that was recorded in Russia that was all electric bass. And then I got the hard to get at the time Necromantics Brought Back to Life, then Curse of the Coffin, and Sharks, Phantom Rockers, and this Demented Argot collection. So this was right at the time where I was really starting to get into writing Psychobilly music. That whole stack of CDs that I just showed you was the heavy influences on my writing at that point in time. And then obviously since then, my collection has grown, but these were the early stuff, the really pivotal stuff.
That's a good collection.
Well, a lot of it's always that question of like, what are your influences? What bands were you into? And those weren't the only CDs that I listened to, but those were the were focused on upright bass CDs. I'm a huge punk rock fan. Bad Religion is probably my all-time favorite band. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that I also love upright bass, so I want to kind of have the best of both worlds. I want to have punk rock, and I want to have the swing and slap of an upright. And that's
in country. You showed BR 549, right?
What's that?
And country, you showed BR 549.
Yeah, I mean, I have a Waylon Jennings tattoo right here. I'm a lover of all things music.
Who was the bass player on that CD? Was it Jeff or Smiling Jay?
Smiling J was on that. When I'd go and see BR549 play in Detroit, and it was always Smiling J at that point in time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Jeff's a badass too.
Like we were talking about like the tattoos, and then somebody mentioned something I wanted to feature, but I cannot find it now. All right. Oh, here it is. Nikolai Berg. He says, I have that Coffin Cat logo proudly tattooed on my arm.
Right on, dude. Me too. Much appreciated, man.
How often do you see Coffin Cats tattooed?
I am a lot, surprisingly, and yeah, it's me and the guys were always just like taken aback, like that's pretty heavy, you know. It's not when you see how many songs have been downloaded or how many albums have sold. It's when you actually make a connection with somebody through the music that you write that actually means something to me. And you know, like for somebody to get a tattoo of us or a song, you know, inspired tattoo, it makes me feel like, wow, I guess I didn't totally screw up what I'm doing here.
Absolutely, it's an amazing feeling. And but you mentioned like a European scene as well, and I haven't seen much European psychobilly over there.
So yeah, so like the thing is like I said, this was stuff that I had to mail order.
Ah, okay.
To get the European stuff, and it just wasn't. Living in Detroit, the scene I was probably the only kid that had a psycho quiff, you know, this tall, that was blue, pumping gas, and you know, standing outside going, "What's up?" in Metro Detroit at that particular point in time. You know, it didn't really exist. I had to go out and find it.
Yeah.
And so it was at that same time that Coffin Cats was getting started. And here's a side note, is that we also had Napster. So what I would do is I didn't know how to download or anything like that, but I would say to a buddy that had a CD burner and was smart about this stuff, I'd say, okay, these are the bands that I see in thank yous from like these other albums. Can you look these bands up for me and see if you can get some of their tracks? And you know, here's my take on downloading music. If it wasn't for people being able to find stuff and download it, you know, say those sites and stuff, nobody probably would ever hear of us. We've always had absolutely terrible CD distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that if you do like it, buy the album. You know, that's always been my opinion of it, because everything that I downloaded that I just went head over heels into, I eventually got lucky enough to find that album. It became like a treasure hunt for me, being out on tour and going, oh, sweet, I finally got that Damage Done by Worms album, you know, or you know, here's that. It's just, it would become a treasure hunt. And mostly it was usually just filled when I'd hit the West Coast and I could get to Amoeba Records or something like that.
So it was easier to find records out here.
Yeah, I mean, for us, for being a band like us from the Midwest, yeah, it after Tiger Army broke and Necromantics broke in the States here in the early 2000s, it was a much more prevalent to start seeing the psychobilly bands pop up throughout the country. But the greatest concentration of it was on the West Coast, and
okay.
that's.
Yeah, I moved to the West Coast. I mean, to the States, 2004. So.
I totally forgot to mention in that pile, my Quake CDs are missing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I always loved the Quakes, man.
Yeah,
I always loved the Quakes.
Yeah.
Somebody,
I can go on for a while about the Quakes.
Really cool.
They're one of my favorite bands. And how I discovered the Quakes was, oddly enough, there's been a long time running psychobilly show on Monday afternoons called The Wrecking Hours in Detroit. It's on a Detroit College station. This guy Alan, he's awesome. He's been doing it forever, and that's another way that I found out about some of these. Found out about psychobilly bands in general, different ones, was by listening to the Wrecking Hours, and at that point in time, Last of the Human Beings, that album had just recently come out, and that he was playing that all the time, and that's how I really discovered the Quakes.
I discovered the Quakes through a friend of mine who had Voice of America, and then I ordered, I guess you can call it mail order, but it was the black market where I was buying all my records and vinyl, and I ordered that record. Like it was supposed to arrive from Germany, and then the dealer, I mean, that was on the street, so that was not in the store. So I remember seeing from the opposite side of the street, walking, and I saw that cover. I was like, oh, they have the Stray Cats, so I have to check it out. Even I had it, the first album, and so like, wait, these are the Quakes? What's the deal here? And then I bought it, and I loved it. And I mean, I was a kid. I was 10 years old or something, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I still love the Quakes. I love the way Paul writes songs, and it's really cool.
Well, he's always had a knack for finding outstanding musicians to play in the band, and every lineup that he's had, it's had something special to it.
Absolutely, I agree. And we forgot to mention that on that Tiger Army album, it's the Quakes bass player Rob Peltier, right?
Yep.
And which ties me to a question by Cloudberry. Has there ever been a bass player that plays standing on their left side with the instrument on the right, slapping with the left hand? I assume he means just left-handed.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of left-handed upright players.
But that would be Rob, right? Rob is left-handed, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. And he was standing. I'm not sure if he still does, but with Irving Claus or whoever he's playing with now. But he was doing that with the Quakes. Well, let's get back to that lesson. So we had like a one more thing that we wanted to talk about, right?
Yes. And so the lesson that you and I went over, where you were playing it, I had recorded it as well to show it's got the slow-mo thing going on.
Oh, cool. That's the one with
the
okay.
Slappy slap with transitions. Yeah.
Let's do that.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This part goes on forever, but you'll kind of get the gist of. Oh, the mushrooms just kicked in.
I love that slow-mo. I almost feel that you're going to hit it with your thumb in a different way. And what is the name of the song that you're using this particular technique?
Oh, I just came up with it, but it was as I was playing it, I was like, oh, this kind of sounds like Metallica Four Horsemen.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. I kind of enjoy just like watching this. It's like
so
mesmerizing.
Really, Yeah, well, so like I was saying, as far as my standard bass playing goes, these are my two go-tos here. Is that 1-2-1-2, and then I'll do the finger roll thingy when I want to kind of do like my version of a fill or something like that.
Ah, got it. Yeah, I think that these will be very helpful for people to understand. And have we played that other video? Have we ever played that video of Twisted Tarantulas?
No, we didn't. But like I was saying, that was the Ace of Spades thing from Twisted Tarantulas. That was one of the first times, seeing an upright player like him play live, seeing him play that song, watching somebody's hand go like that. That was the first time I'd seen those crazy slap things. So my mind was blown, and I was like, I have no idea how that's done. And for a long time, I never got that technique down. And so I was like, I have to at least get this technique down, because sometimes I feel like I'm cheating, with the low tension strings and the being able to pluck with my fingers. So I have to feel like I'm halfway okay. So I wanted to show that technique and then show it in slow motion as well.
Let's play that one.
So that palm's coming in first, and then the fingers are coming on down to slap the other part.
These videos are very helpful. People can actually see what's going on. And I never did this slow-mo myself. Should analyze my own playing and then figure it out. And you said that's from the Ace of Spades cover of Twisted Tarantulas, right?
Yes.
That song for me was always really cool sounding on upright slap bass. I even cover it by myself for my Slap Bass Sunday series. It's on my YouTube channel, and it's that intro really sounds kind of like it should be played. It should have been played on with slap. And I haven't played it for Lemmy. Even I had a chance to do it, but I always thought, he doesn't need to hear, one more Ace of Spades. Whenever I was talking to him, and if somebody mentioned Ace of Spades, he would say oh, I wish people were talking about some other songs, from the newer albums or something. It's been a while since we did that one, that type of thing.
I actually, it's cool in my studies for mixing and stuff like that. You can get tracks to practice with, and I actually ended up with the isolated tracks for I can't remember what song it is right now, but a more recent Motorhead song. And it's so cool to hear Lemmy just stepping up to the microphone, and also he's got on this particular song there's 3 bass tracks going at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really cool to just peek behind the curtain on that kind of stuff, especially with somebody like him.
Which song was that?
I'm trying to remember what it is. Of course,
okay.
I can't pull off the top of my head right now. But
if you remember, write it down in the description of the video later on, so people can find out about it. With Lemmy's music and Motorhead and anything that even the stuff that I played with him, you could always hear like very strong, strong 50s rockabilly influence. He didn't like much psychobilly though, but
Ah,
you know, he did. Yeah, he loved rockabilly, but he always called it rock and roll. He was like, no, it's rock
yeah.
and roll.
Every time we'd get to, as soon as we get to the Hollywood, we'd always make a point to stop at the Rainbow just to see if we could catch him there at the poker machine. We never got a chance to meet him, but yeah, I mean,
He was the coolest. Absolutely. I would like to talk about your gear. I'm not the best, the biggest gearhead. Actually do. I just play stuff that I like, but lots of people are interested in gear and your gear. We're gonna get to the pickups, but first, I want to ask you, like, what is the bass that you're playing now, and what brand? And do you have a favorite bass brand, or you just getting something that could be good for the road?
so this is my custom made for me night string bass.
Okay.
And there's a lot of cool details that was put into it by Anthony Galler. And I'm going to come up closer to the camera so you can see like there's some cool like scribing work done on the tuners. Kind of hard to make out, but and then a belt buckle plate there because I always would wear holes in the side of my bass from my belt buckle and stuff. But it is, let's see if I can. It does have a trap door. It is reinforced. I can't remember if it came with 2 sound posts or if I added the second sound post. In my opinion, 2 sound posts aren't all that necessary unless your bass is. If you're getting weird overtones with your bass, and that's why I could see maybe using the second sound post. But I mean, I've taken this second sound post out of this bass, and it sounds exactly the same to me. Yeah, so that's the night string bass. My my other bass out west is that Shen bass I was talking about earlier. That's just, like I said, some Home Depot. Get in there inside of there and put blocks on the inside around where the body, all kind of joins together so it doesn't blow apart. And then out in Europe there, I have just the standard rockabilly slap bass from Tommen. I actually bought that from Paul Roman from the Quakes after they had finished a tour up out there. He had a bass and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to leave a bass out here. Do you want to buy it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need one out there." So that worked out. And that bass, I love the sound of that bass. And it is probably at this point at least 40% gaff tape because it just keeps breaking and breaking. But it's a great bass. It's one of those cheap plywood basses that have the baseball neck, but I'm used to playing crappy basses, and yeah, I mean this is actually a really, really nice bass, and I would actually like to just put it in my living room and look at it and maybe get just another cheap Chinese plywood bass to take out on tour, but it's not in the budget at the moment. So that's as far as basses go in my repertoire right now. That's what I got. And moving over to amplification, I started out. I made the massive mistake of buying an 8x10 Ampeg cab and an Ampeg head. The head itself was fine. It had a graphic EQ. I could dial in great tones, but the overkill of the 8x10 wouldn't have been so bad, but it didn't have any horns in it. And it took me a while to figure out that if I wanted to have a more accurate just depiction of what my tone is, I got to have a horn or tweeter in the cab. And so I moved from Ampeg over to Galen Kruger. And because I had a Galen Kruger practice head, it was like a 400 RB, and I really liked that because I felt that Galen Kruger, whatever their circuitry is, it just did something nicer for finding the mid range of the mid range, and it had a very nice low end for upright. And so my next step was, well, I need to get the 1001 RB, and I got that probably around 2000, I think 2009, and I've been playing 1001 RB Galen Kruger with Neo cabinets. And I made another mistake, but I still have it just because I haven't gotten a different cab. The right one to get was the 410. The wrong one to get was the 15. And you know, it's cool because Kim actually went over this on his episode. That 15-inch speaker, for at least for Galen Kruger, does not have the response. It doesn't snap back enough. It flubs out for your low notes on your upright. So ideally, down the road, I'm going to have two 410 cabinets, but a lot of the times that 15-inch blows out anyway, so I just leave it unplugged. And I think right now, I think it's currently blowing too. I don't remember, but a lot of times I just won't even plug it in for the stage because it just kind of farts at you.
When I started getting orange, when I started playing orange rig, they sent me 115 and 410s, and I was playing 410s and loved it, and I just was never satisfied with the 15th, and I just ordered another 410 to come. So that's how I tour with two cabs, and they're both 410s. Something about those 10s that I love, and something about those 15s that I really don't love.
Well, you gotta have the mid range has to punch through. When you're playing, say you got one heavy guitar player and you got another heavy guitar player and you got some walls of distortion. I mean, you don't necessarily need walls of distortion, but in my situation, I have a loud guitar amp going, and if I'm just playing the sound that comes out of a 15-inch speaker, it's a lot more ass than it is mid, and that's not cutting through. Those 10 inches, they have just a great way to voice your notes so that they punch right out and go straight off the stage into the crowd. And I haven't personally tried the 12-inch cab, but I mean, I would, as Kim stated in his episode, I would imagine it's somewhere between a 15 and a 10. But I love what the punch that 10-inch cabs give. And a lot of times it's if we're doing a festival and there's a back line, there's like an Ampeg 410 with a horn, and those sound fine to me too. Really, I mean, I'm kind of gear specific just because it's just what I have right now, and I just like the Galen Kruger, at least amp head. I know there's better cabinets out there. One of these days I'd love to get a Greenboy, but yeah, right now I'm using the GK stuff, and the 10-inch speakers are, in my opinion, the ones to go with for upright bass.
Seems a lot that Greenboy really affected upright bass scene. That lots of bass players decided to use it. Have you ever tried one?
Yeah. They're awesome. It's you don't. Is what I experienced. So there was a bass player that had one, and it was funny because that particular night I was fighting the room tone. Like I usually keep my settings just all at 12 o'clock, and I dial my stuff in on my preamp. But for whatever night, it was just nothing was working right, and I actually plugged into that Greenboy for the hell of it just because I wanted to check it out, and it sounded like butter. And I was like,
really?
Yeah.
I think
was.
I've tried it only once at the Blast Cult, but it was a while ago.
But yeah, so as far as settings and stuff, I used to make a massive mistake, and I would carve out my mid range because I like that thump of the low end and that click of the fingerboard. But the problem is that it sounds really cool by itself, but it does not cut through the mix of a band. And you gotta have that mid range, and where it might not sound appealing to some players just playing it by itself, in the whole, you have to think in terms of the mix of what's going off the stage, and you have to have that mid-range in there, to the point that you might not even be comfortable. Your bass might be a little funky sounding. That's what I call it, funky, when you have a little too much mid-range. But you got to know that you're at least going to cut through in a live environment. You know, as far as like when it comes to mixing upright in music, if it's a part of a song where it's just like maybe a bass and drum breakdown, I'll pull the mid-range out so it kind of sits in there really cool, and you know, it has a lot more energy. But when that song gets kicking back in, I'll automate the mid-range to come back up so that bass can cut through the mix and you can hear the notes better. And especially, you got to have that mid-range these days in your music, because a lot of people are listening through these, you know, iPhone Bluetooth speakers that are smaller speakers, and they're not going to support where you think that you're sounding good with the low end. They're not going to support that. You need to have that mid-range in there to cut through those speakers and cut through the whole mix.
You have a question from Corey. Who pinstriped your bass?
My buddy from Indiana, my buddy Alan Uhas. He's a pinstriper out of the Indianapolis area.
But a bass came out like that.
No. So when this is aftermarket.
Okay. that was customized.
Yes.
All right. Strings.
Yes. So, 1 second. I'll be right back. This has to do with strings.
All right. All right. While Vic is going to bring the strings and show us what's going on, I would like to remind you and ask you and demand to subscribe. Please subscribe. Subscribe button should be somewhere around here. If it's not, you're probably watching the live stream and it's somewhere around, you know, the YouTube deal. And subscribing, liking, commenting, and all those things really help out for some reason. I don't know why. The YouTube algorithm to promote these videos and actually show them. So please do that. If you feel inclined to help me out, continue doing these slap streams, please consider a donation via PayPal and Venmo. The links are below. Or a Patreon. Patreon has been a really great way to support, since you have lots of perks offered. And I believe that Vic is ready. So let's do that.
So going through the history of the strings I was using, obviously when I got the bass, my very first bass was, I ordered it off of eBay, and it showed up in a massive semi truck, pulled up in front of the house, and they wheeled out a massive box, and it came with these, you know, steel strings. And at that point in time, I didn't know there were other options. I had heard of gut strings, but once I was able to look those up and see how much those cost, I was like, well, it looks like I'm a steel string player. So as I progressed, and I was able to get through the internet and get through chats and forums and stuff like that, I discovered that there was the nylon string option. And at the point in time, the most affordable option was the Labella Super Nils. So I played Super Nils. In fact, I think the first two Coffin Cat records are played with Super Nils. And then after that, when we started touring, I would meet other bass players and play their basses and ask them what strings they're using. And that's when I found out about Lemur Music. I think they're out of San Diego, but I got onto the Lemur Music site, and it had a lot of good information on upright strings. And I had got the Innovation black nylon strings. So I was using those for a while. And then around that time, I believe I learned about bumped strings, because I remember the black nylon strings were the first strings that I bumped over. And I got a tennis racket strings from a sporting goods store. So I, eliminated the E, A, D, G, and then used the tennis racket string as the G string. It was something that I had read on a forum, about European players were doing that and stuff. And so after the black nylons, I then went over to Innovation silver slaps, and I really liked those strings. But then I found out about Roto Sound. I used the Innovation silver slaps, and I used them standard, so I didn't bump them or anything, and I liked it. They're comfortable strings. But then I found out about the Roto Sound trick, and that you could buy the 5-string set, eliminate the E. And so I started using Roto Sounds, and I've been using them ever since. Just recently, I found out that GHS Strings, which is a Michigan company, and I like to support local where I can, they acquired Innovation. And so I reached out to them and said, hey, are you doing any artist deals or anything like that? And so I got kind of a discount on some Innovation strings. So I bought a couple different sets to try out, and I'm going to see about going back with Innovation strings here if I like them or not. I just haven't had a chance to put them on. But I also didn't want to tempt fate because I'm really comfortable with the Roto Sounds right now, and I didn't want to do this interview and be like falling all over myself. I couldn't keep up with these on. So we'll see.
Maybe that should do VIC VICTOR signature set now, since they're Michigan.
Oddly enough, it's something that I talked about. Because I remember playing the silver slap. I only had them for a short period of time, so I can't remember if I was having trouble executing what I wanted to with them or not. But once I put them on, I did discuss with Innovation about, hey, there's this thing called bumping over, and they're familiar with it. They just don't offer a high C string at this time in this style of string. So it's something that they considered maybe they could do a custom wine for me to try out, and then maybe we'll have something if I like it.
Oh, please let us know so we can promote it here. And you said you're playing a Deuce Bridge, right?
Yes. So the night string, it came with a wooden bridge, but I like the Deuce bridges. Well, one, they don't fall over as easy. If I'm sure some people have seen pictures of my other basses where I have shelf brackets actually holding the bridge in place, because one, lower tension strings, that bridge can move around a little bit easier. Also, our shows have mosh pits and people fall onto the stage, and that bass bridge is always likes to be prime target for getting knocked into. It's like, if you ever watch me play, I've developed like a sixth sense of like always knowing where the bass bridge is at, so that when the drunk guy in the front's doing this, or like people, they put their backs up and try to take pictures and stuff, they always love to ram their back right into the bass bridge, and I'm like, So the Deuce bridges came out, and at the time Jason Brown was making them, and I had known Jason from, he was living in Green Bay, and we'd come through and did a show and played with his band at the time, and he was talking to me about these Deuces, and I got a very early version of it, and I think each of my basses have a Deuce on them, because I would get these sometimes prototype and early versions of them, and yeah, Deuce, they're a great bridge. They're very easy to set up, especially if you don't have to be a luthier to do it. You can take the top. Well, let me just show you. I'm standing here trying to describe it when I got one right here. See this top? You can take the top. It's very thin wood. I don't know what kind of wood it is, but it's very easy to manipulate and sand down. And you can kind of create your own string arch how you'd like, and your string spacing how you'd like. And then it has adjustable nuts on it so that you can really get your string height how you like. So yeah, Deuce Bridge.
I don't think I ever had, like, I mean, I'm sure I never had a Deuce Bridge on my bass, any of my basses. I've always used the traditional, and for a long time I even avoided the adjusters. Now I have the adjusters on my bass. They could be helpful sometimes.
I did our early tours, I would get in there and I'd file the bridge low to be comfortable. But then I would discover, oh, hey, we're in Denver and my bass is a completely different animal now. And I got nowhere to go. I can't, my strings are now like down here and I'm like, oh no, trying to dig into it. So that's where I was like, I need to get one of those braces that have those screwy things on there to make them go up and down.
Yeah, it's very helpful for nylon or gut strings. Have you ever played gut strings?
Oh yeah. So for a short period of time around Detroit, I played with a rockabilly band. It was a cover band we called Rebel Rouser, and the guy who fronted that band, he actually had a really nice old K, and had gut strings on it. And I absolutely, one of these days, I'm going to have a K with gut strings on it. I love playing. I love the sound of it. I love the way they feel, and obviously I can implement different techniques with that type of setup. That I can't do very well with the lower tension strings and low action like I have on this bass. But yes, I have played gut strings.
Now's the time for the pickups. There's so many people asked about pickups. What kind of pickups Vic is playing? What is it? Well, let's talk about Vic's pickups.
One other reason I love the Deuce bridge is that on both wings, it gives you the ability to have a set screw that will bring a wood shim down and pressurize your Paizo pickup. So obviously we know that we have a couple different options when it comes to pickups. And recently I learned that there is some sort of magic optical option, but mainly we have magnetic and we have Paizo, which magnetic obviously only works if you're using metal strings because it needs to pick up that, the metallic magic. I think that's what it's called, right? But the Paizos work off of vibration. And so that's the pickups that I like to use. When I was first getting into upright bass, they were the most affordable option. But they are susceptible to damage pretty easy if you mistreat them. And I am no stranger to mistreating my equipment. And so I found that I was spending a lot of money on pickup systems and trying to find the right pickup system. And I know the idea is that all Paizos do the same thing, but some are better than others when it comes to design and how it works with your bass. I mean, in theory, every Paizo should work the same, but not every Paizo is as friendly to a bass as it may be to a different setup or anything. So it led me down a long road of frustration, and it was finally we were on tour in Europe. We were in Poland, and I had just gotten a new pickup system for that tour, and it didn't even have probably 10 shows on it, and it started to snap, crackle, and pop. And it wasn't the inputs or anything; it was the actual Paizo element itself had gone bad, and I didn't know what to do about it. So, it was a very difficult period of the tour. Unfortunately, I was able to get something else from somebody and quickly wire it together. But after that tour, I was like, you know what? I should be able to figure out how to make these. And I dissected it and started making my own and seeing how long they would last. I would do some tours with my own pickups. And after I noticed that, I was starting to get it down to what worked and what didn't work, I felt comfortable enough that, maybe I can offer these to other bass players. And also seeing what the parts cost to create these pickups, I was like, there's no way I can, as a bass player, selling a pickup to a fellow bass player, feel good about charging what I would normally paying for these pickups. So I ended up making Paizo pickups and different setups at a pretty, what I'd like to think is a decent price. And I also back them up with a lifetime warranty because I just, they're not going to last forever, but also we're musicians and we work for a living, and it's hard sometimes to get paid for your gigs, and times it can be hard between gigs. So if your equipment breaks, you should be able to at least, know that your bass pickup can be replaced for free.
That's amazing. And the best way is to go to your website, right?
Yeah, I got really lucky, and nobody had taken uprightbasspickups.com. So when I decided to go all in and start making these pickups for, start manufacturing them at a larger level, I scored that and then slowly built the website. And now I offer, it's when it all comes down to it, the meat and potatoes of it is the bridge wing pickup. So that is a sandwich style. It's a piezo on the top and a piezo on the bottom with material in between. And it allows you to put it in your bridge wing and find the proper pressure point for your bridges, for your bass's sweet spot, I like to call it. And every bass has a different sweet spot. Every bridge wing has a different sweet spot. So you move it back and forth. And usually I recommend opening your bridge wing up wider than the pickup so that the pickup easily goes in there. And then using some sort of, very thin wood shim. Or what I like to do, which is really easy, is just go to the guitar store and get some really thin picks and slide really thin guitar picks in there to find your proper pressure point. I don't ever like to say that, oh yeah, just throw it in your bridge and it's going to sound great. You do have to work with piezo pickups. They're, like I said, they're finicky when it comes to setting them up. But once you get them in, they have a really sweet, a nice sweet low end. And for the upright, and then also I make the same element, same piezo element for the under the neck slap, which it also picks up. It very easily picks up the frequency range of the 5 to 8K where your slap, that sweet spot for the click is.
And you're basically offering 5 different models, right?
Yeah, because well.
Model A is a slap pickup. Is that
Yes.
the one that you just started with?
No, so I started with just the bridge wing pickup.
Okay,
And then,
that's the Model B, right?
Yeah. So obviously a lot of us are using preamps, and while you don't need a preamp for a piezo bridge wing pickup to work, the preamp has a second job a lot of the times, and that actually works as a blender box. So a very common setup is to have a slap and a bridge wing pickup stereo wired together, and then you mix that in your preamp and to give it one output. You have a mono output with your slap and your bridge mixed. And so I made, that's why there's multiple pickups available, because they're each designed around, what do you want them separated in mono, or do you want them stereo wired together?
So Model A is basically just a slap pickup.
Yep, stick it underneath your neck, and you're gonna have your clicky clacky.
But people cannot use just that one. They would have to have like
it'll be all click.
Yeah, it'll be all clicky. And Model B is something that we can call like the basic one, which is single wing
Yep, that's
bridge
the one
pickup.
that's the one that's ordered the most.
Oh, really? That's the one, not the C that combines both of these.
Yeah, I mean, because not everybody needs to have that click sound or desires to have that overemphasized click sound. I mean, living in the psychobilly world, yes, that something like a Model C is a prime candidate, but it's not, in bluegrass, you can just have that natural percussive slap that comes from your bridge.
And Model D would be something like the Underwood or Shadow for the European bass players, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that is it's a dual wing setup, and the full disclosure, I don't use one because when I tour, I try to keep my setup as easy as possible, because when you're throwing a bass in a bag every night, you're throwing it in a van. When you open it back up, you want to just be able to walk on stage and plug that thing in and hope everything works as it should. And the problem is that having that second wing, and I mean, this is full honesty, I'm not trying to talk down my product, but having that second wing, if you're traveling, if that thing gets out of whack, you can end up with phase cancellation. You know, you can end up with a thinner sound because somehow the one pickup is sending too much of a mirrored image of the other pickup, and you have this thing called frequency cancellation. It's just, they take a little bit longer to set up and get just right. So I don't use it, but it does come in handy for a lot of upright players. And it gives you an all around fuller tone on your higher strings. It doesn't necessarily do it for every bass, but it can help out basses that have not necessarily the best setup, or maybe their strings are just weaker. The D and G strings are just weaker sounding, and it helps balance that out.
And last model is the Model E that combines
the
slap
super
and the
deluxe
dual
version,
wing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you say? Super what?
Super deluxe version. Yeah, you get all of it.
Do you have like, are you with these that combine slap pickups with just regular bridge pickups? Are you able to have a control over how much slap you want versus how much tone you want?
I get asked this question a lot, and no, I don't wire them all together. The bridge pickup is wired independently of the slap pickup, because the slap, if you did that, that's all you would still hear is your slap, because your slap's it's giving a much higher frequency and a much more direct frequency than your bridge pickup is. So it'd be impossible to get the right balance. So they are wired in stereo, which means that, yes, you have to have some sort of a way to split them into your amp. And most commonly is, your preamps that have a stereo input. Or if you're running just a slap and a bridge pickup in mono mode, which means that you have a patch cable coming from each, you can get the blender boxes that have 2 mono inputs to 1 mono output.
And which one are you using?
So at the moment on this bass, I'm using the Shadow RB. It's a 2-channel to 1 preamp. It's a good preamp. I like it. The knobs are a little goofy on it. They get moved really easy, but fortunately I keep it inside my bass. One big gripe that people have about it is the small, the 2.5 millimeter inputs. They can go bad pretty easy, especially they don't take a hit at all. So that's why with the pickups, I do offer replacement options that have the Shadow style jacks.
And what kind of pickup do you have on your bass?
So I'm just running a single bridge wing and a slap pickup.
Separately or Model C?
They're separately, because for the Shadow RB system, you have to run each one mono into its own input.
All right. So if you want to have that VIC Victor setup, that would be a Model B with Model A.
Yes.
Yes. And you can find them on uprightbasspickups.com. And I have a question for you, actually. Let me just remove this. Goes back. Look at this. I have a question for you. So which one is this?
That's one of my very early ones where I was still using. I hadn't totally figured out what I wanted to do with the underneck, but that would be like a Model C, because that's that's stereo wired. It's stereo wired bridge and slap.
All right, here they are. This is slap pickup for all of you there. Don't see that. You don't have any over there like to show us, right?
You know what? At my workbench at home, I had each one laid out to remember to grab to bring here to the studio. And no, sorry.
And then, there were lots of questions about pickup. So if you want to ask a question about pickup, now's the time. Okay. How do you have any clue how many of these have you sold so far?
Just judging by the website, I'm around 500. And
wow, that's great.
Yeah, the website's been up for 3 years, about 3 years.
Oh, cool. They're great. Ellie is asking, do you make a stereo out for bridge and neck combo?
Yes.
My preamp has a stereo in.
Yep, that's the Model C. And one thing to remember when you're running this, it's called a TRS jack. And I offer them in female version, which you can have. You have to get the TRS patch cable, and that's very important because the TRS is stereo. If you use a TS, just a mono, you're only going to get your bridge because it doesn't tap into the slap pickup. But I also offer a direct. So if you mount your preamp on your bass, you can. I make the wires long enough with a male version that will stereo that will just plug right into your preamp, so you can bypass the patch cable because it's the more direct connections you can have, the better.
Sure. All right. They were like, I'll try to figure out if there were like more questions about pickups. Chuck says, great pickup. All right. If I see it, I'll figure it out. There was also a question by Cloudberry. It's not related to pickups. Is there any bass player in Rocka Psychobilly music that incorporates knocking on the instrument, the wood in songs? Like something like Adam Ben Ezra does this a lot and he's playing.
Like something,
yes, that type of thing.
I can't do it for shit, but I have definitely seen other bass players do it and do it very well. Can I name you one at the moment? No, but I have seen it. Yes.
Cloudberry, like there was a guy on the Slapstream that actually does that. His name is Lucas Warford. He was I forgot which episode, but he does that, and Adam Ben Ezra does that very, very, very nicely. And I did. Adam is a great guy, great bass player. Whoever is not familiar with him should check him out. Great compositions. He's not into rockabilly. He slaps a little bit. Actually, I did a masterclass with, like, two of us did a masterclass together in Europe several years ago, and you can learn a lot from that guy. I'm glad you mentioned him. Maybe I should get him on the Slapstream as well one of these days. Let me see if there were like any other questions gear related here. Yeah, it's hard like to see that now. All right, so I'll continue. So if I missed any of the questions because there's long live chat, like please feel free to ask again and I'll feature it. I have a question. How do you record bass and slap bass in the studio?
Oh, yes. I am happy to answer that. But I am going to take a break for about 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, because it is a long session, and I did drink this whole thing, and it just wants to leave.
Sure, go ahead.
So I'll be right back, and I'm happy to answer that for you.
No worries. All right, I hope you guys are enjoying the Slapstream number 18 with VIC VICTOR from the Coffin Cats. Great bass player, very influential. Seems that lots of psychobilly bands nowadays are influenced by the Coffin Cats and Vic's slapping style. If you just joined us, make sure to watch the episode from the beginning. Vic gave us 3 or 4 slap bass lessons, lots of tips on how to amplify, how to tour, all kinds of things. And if you want to follow Vic and Coffin Cats, the links are below in the description of this video. You can follow him, you can follow me, you can follow Art of Slap Bass. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe. That really helps out with YouTube algorithm, and it warms my heart because I know there's like more and more people interested in slap bass, and that's kind of been like my mission for a long time. If you'd like to support me and support Slapstream, check out all these donation links, PayPal and Venmo, and super stickers and super chats are now available. They're right under the live chat. And Vic seems to be back, and
I have relieved myself.
All right, I'm glad to hear that. So you're ready for another 3 hours and steal the throne.
We're approaching the Kim time, and I don't want.
Okay.
Yeah, But no, I'm happy to answer that. And yeah, I do actually have another engagement here in a little while, but we still have plenty of time to go over this particular subject. And when it comes to recording the upright, so there's no wrong way to do it, but the way that I like to do it is I get the DI. The DI is very important, and this is kind of something that applies to electric bass as well. The DI is always going to give you a good punchy sound, and with the upright bass, if you have your slap pickup in there, you do have to be kind of cautious about how much slap you've mixed into it, because again, you're getting the direct injection of bridge and neck. So the DI is always, that's when it comes to mixing, I usually use a lot of the DI signal that I get. And then also, depending upon if the song calls for it, what I have set up over here, what you've been hearing, is a mixture of the DI, and also I have a ribbon microphone. I like to use ribbon microphones with bass. The idea with a ribbon is that they kind of hear like the human ear hears. And I set the ribbon microphone usually about 5 feet away. That gives the bass cabinet time to really get its full sound to the microphone. A lot of times, especially if you're doing like a slap bass style, if you just take and put the microphone right up to the woofer, you're just getting that woofer. And if you have equipment like I have, those woofers, when they're put under the microscope like that, don't necessarily sound that great. They've gone through a lot of abuse. But you back the microphone up around the 5 foot range, 3 to 5 feet, you're allowing the wavelengths to get full cycle through, and you really get a good sound. And I like to isolate it so that you're not picking. You can, if you have a good sounding room, you utilize room sound as well. But I like to isolate it. So I like to use a combination of a direct as well as a ribbon microphone from the cab. And if you're recording and you have the bass very well isolated, throw a ribbon microphone up right on the bass too, because there's your acoustic sound. I don't do it with my bass because these strings are really clicky, and unless I want to utilize kind of a natural sounding slap and not the neck pickup slap, sure. But so there's a couple different ways that you can approach getting your bass onto recording. But I like to, like I said, I like to utilize most of the DI input when it comes to recording and everything. Yeah.
You end up like with three signals?
Usually I just do two. But say I'm doing a song where I like to have a different kind of ambiance, I'll and the problem is that, like I said, with this particular bass, I don't mic it because it just doesn't sound that great acoustically. I prefer my basses to be dead acoustically so that it gives me less feedback issues.
So you're using the exact same bass that you're playing live, like when you like in the studio?
Yep.
Same setup, same strings, same everything.
Yep. And then it shows me how bad the last tour was to the instrument, because it really puts it under the microscope. So it's string buzz is a question that comes up a lot, and I take gaff tape and I'll put it underneath the nut to raise the string up on certain strings, because I'll get buzz going on. And I am the king of like Home Depot luthier gaff tape repairs. But I don't have a studio specific bass at this time.
And what kind of microphones? You said ribbon, but is there any particular brand that you like?
I use these. They're called like VIV. Hang on one second. There's one right behind me right here. They are a handmade Russian microphone, and I don't want to say that they're copies of like the Royer 121. I mean, they're not even the same league as that mic, but they are a very nice, warm sounding ribbon microphone. I love using them for cymbal overheads. It's just they do something really nice with the high end and something very warm with the low end. And the if you want to look them up, they are called RMBIV1, and I'll have to do some research. It was a while ago that I ordered these, but there is an English version of the website, and they're very, very affordable for this caliber of microphone.
It's interesting. You mentioned Royer. Cool. That's What do you say? MV?
Let me get in the light here. That light's not. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. It is the RMBIV1.
Ah, okay. All right. If you want to sound like Vic, that's the mic that you should get. But before that, you have to learn how to play.
Full disclosure, though, there currently are not any Coffin Cat recordings out yet that have this technique.
Okay, good.
In the past, it was. This is a situation where I wish I knew now wish I knew then what I know now. In the past, it usually is just a direct signal. But there is, I think it was our Born of the Motor album. We actually mic'd the 15-inch, which was just a bad idea. And I don't even think any of it was actually mixed into it because it was just so sounding.
It's interesting. So do you usually record an amp at all or not?
Yeah, I'll record the cab, and it usually it was the 10-inch speaker or the 15-inch speaker would have been mic'd. And then it has the DI, and a great thing for the upright is a thing called the Sans amp, which I'm sure a lot of bass players are familiar. If there's a bass player that dabbles with the electric bass, the Sans amp is awesome, and it does wonders for. So we're going to get a little nerdy. When it comes to mixing, we're not just using one bass track. Or at least I'm not. I have my bass track. That's my underlaying low end, and I have another bass track that is my slap that's on a separate fader, and then I have my mid range, and I mix depending upon where I'm at in the song. I'll bring that mid range up or I'll bring that mid range down because, as I mentioned before, I like the sound of scoop mid range, but it doesn't cut through a lot of mixes. So I'll actually have three faders going. I'll have the low end, which I heavily compress so that it's just staying there, rocking right away, just keeping a nice steady bass of the song. And then I will ride the fader for the mid range, and then I will also have the clicky fader. The clicky, I usually leave that. I dial that click in when I'm dialing in the drums for a song, because I like to let the click live with the drums. They're in that house. And then I'll go on and treat my bass much like I would treat an electric bass and just focus on the low and the mids.
We all love that slap sound, and we're so focused on it. It's interesting you mentioned Royer mics, because these mics that I'm using in my little that I'm using in Slapsville are from their sister company Mojave.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
They're made in the same factory. They're here in Burbank. And I love them.
I just actually got, not Mojave, but there's another very, very affordable mic and series from a company called Lewitt. And I've been loving what they've been putting out so far. And these microphones are going to be all over the next Coffin Cat recording, which is cool. Lewitt. This particular one is the LCT 240 Pro, which is, I guess it's kind of like an SM57 if you want to think of what a mic style it is.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm using this one like for which is MA100 for slap sound, and now I'm using for the vocals. Although they checked out some of the slap streams, it's like we're gonna send you another one for the slap stream. But for the bass sound, I'm using 200, which is this one.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful microphone.
It's a good one.
So it was always, and this happens live too, is that it's usually a beta, a Shure beta kick mic. What's that? Beta 52, I think. Whatever the beta Shure kick mics.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually what would end up when we'd be in the studio. That's what would be in front of the cabinet. And again, keep in mind, for most of Coffin Cat recordings, this was in the era where I was always really interested in recording, but it was too much for me to like mentally take on. And like I said, I wish I knew then what I know now.
These are kind of weird times. From us, it's expected to do, not just to play, but compose, engineer, record, produce, design, live stream. That's it, to do everything. You can't just be focused on your instrument and hey, I just want to be a bass player. You have a question from Corey. Was the deep bass explosion in the song Outrun created with your bass on the recording?
So that deep bass, that's another story here. It first appeared on the song Splatterhouse, and that same file, that same drop, it's like just a sub bass drop. It's a sample, and it was something that the fella that was recording us, engineering us, Roscoe, he liked to use it in his mixes and stuff, and was like, "Hey, check this out, guys," and for Splatterhouse, when welcome to that drop is there, and we always love that part. So for the Party Time and the End Times album, we actually worked with Roscoe again and said, hey, remember that drop? We want to use that somewhere again, and Outrun was the perfect one for it. And it's a sample. It's a sample, which it hits so low that I know that it's actually blowing out some people's back windshields for kicker boxes that are not expecting a song like ours to be that low. So they'll have the kicker box going. Yeah.
Wow. Well, from Alisa is asking you, how Vic does his hair? Looks like he doesn't give a shit, but it looks great at the same time.
A lot of minoxidil. Yeah, I'm approaching 40, and I'm fighting every strand to stay in my head. No, I don't know. I was growing it long during this quarantine thing, and I was like, hey, I got long hair, and then when I went to comb it, we were doing something Coffin Cats. I went to comb it, and it was just like falling all over, and it. There was a period of time during tours where I never cut my hair, and it was like the guys always razzed me about it. Like, you look like shit back then. And I was like, yeah, looking at pictures, I'm like, ugh, I did. And I was getting to that point, and I was like, no, I just buzz around the sides with like a zero clipper, and then I just leave some stuff on top and hope it stays up there. And yeah, I don't really have any
tricks.
I'm not fancy with it.
The name for your pickups, that's Vic's Pickups, right?
Yeah, I just call them Vic's Pickups.
Okay. I'm surprised that you didn't get that URL as well.
I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't. There's always this part of me that pops in where it's like, even calling them Vic's Pickups, like it was almost borderline a little too egotistical to put my name on them like that. So. Like, I definitely, it crossed my mind, but I didn't want to be like, oh, Vic's Pickups. That's what the website is. No, I was like, I want to have upright bass pickups somehow. That way I can easily tell people what they are and stuff. And all their upright bass pickups. And I was searching through URLs, and I found uprightbasspickups.com was available. And I was like, oh, okay. To me, it was like, oh, it was like finding guitarpickups.com.
Yeah. It's definitely.
So I'm proud of that score.
Yeah. Should be. I asked you like when do you have any gigs scheduled at all?
No.
Nothing. Just waiting.
Yeah, it's really the Corona subject. It's something where I am there in my life. There are people that have been greatly affected by it. I've been I mean, my whole livelihood has been turned upside down, and so have my, closest companions. And I'm angry at the whole thing. I'm mad at the coronavirus itself. I'm not going to get into anything politics or anything, because that's not what we're about. There's just until the environment is right to have shows again. We're just waiting. We're forever in a holding pattern right now.
So you're not going to be scheduling, booking anything and rescheduling
we're talking with what's cool is that all the touring that we've done over the years, we have a pretty good relationship with a lot of promoters, and we've been talking to them and saying, hey, what are you guys doing, and what's your outlook for your region? The United States is very big, and one region might be cool where the other region's the hotbed, for what's reported. So we're just checking in with promoters and seeing when the air is clear, so to say, and we'll start booking from then. But right now, with everyone that we've talked to, with the exception of Florida, but nobody's really doing shows.
In Florida they have shows,
as far as I understand. Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. How about Europe or South America?
Whenever we get invited back, we took a really hard financial hit on the last European tour. Just a lot of extra costs popped up that we weren't aware of, and so it really left a bad taste in our mouth, because we lost our ass. And that coming right after we had tried to get to Europe before that and had a passport issue, and it ended up costing us $6,000 because stupid us didn't buy the flight insurance, and they refused to rebook our flights, because we were going to try to at least come in halfway through the tour on a rebooked flight, and they would not even rebook our flights for us. So we had a loss from that, which was our own stupid fault. But then we had another loss from this last European tour. It was fun, but we hadn't been over there for a few years and didn't realize how expensive things had gotten, and there was some shady gear rentals, van rental stuff pulled on us, and just a nightmare. So we're now basically like, well, when the right promoter comes along and the right guarantee comes along, we'll be back to Europe, just like we'll go anywhere. But right now, add in the corona factor. Well, who knows when that will be?
Yeah, we don't know anything. So because of that, please go to Coffin Cats website and buy merch. You're getting a discount, Art of Slap Bass, and it's going to be up there for 2 weeks. So it's your unique opportunity. I wanted to ask you about.
I think they might have fixed that promo code by now too.
Cool.
I didn't realize that Tom typed it in all separately. When we do promo codes, we usually mash the words together. So
So
try it one way or try the other right now, and then we'll get it.
But it will be all together, right?
Yes, ultimately, yes. So if you tried it all together, it's not working right now, try it separated. Yeah. I texted the guys, but I didn't want to be on my phone the whole time trying to.
Sure. I got a few messages like that. Well, I'm glad it's been sorted out. As far as we talked about your slap bass influences, when you were starting out, who are the slap bass players that you appreciate from these days?
Oh, I mean, it's always. We're very, very lucky. We're very lucky to be in a band that we get to play with the people that we looked up to. And I didn't even think to mention how much of Mad Sin was an influence on us. And we started being able to play with Mad Sin when Vale had, recently joined the band. And watching Vale play, he's just so great and in the pocket with them. And they're such a tight band. So watching them, and then also being able to tour with Reverend Horton Heat, watching Jimbo, it's living legend on upright right there. And then of course, we've done shows with Necromantics quite a few times, and watching Kim play, it's it never ceases to amaze me. I'll stand there like it was the first time ever on the side of the stage, going, "Oh, look, he's doing it," But yeah, I mean, and there are so many great upright players now, and I mean, there always have been great upright players, but I'm saying that I've personally been able to be sharing the stage with, and we've played with so many great bands. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the psychobilly scene is very alive and well. It doesn't get the media attention that it used to get, but when we do tour, it is very strong, and there's a lot of people that have their hearts behind it, and it's great to see. And another phenomenal newer bass player, not new, but you know, from the newer generation like we're from, is Colin from the Brains. He's another great one that you should get on here. Yeah, I can name off a bunch of them, but of course, you know, when you got the spotlight and the microphone on me, I'm like, Durr.
Are there any songs that you would consider essential slap bass recordings? I don't mean yours, but like in general that influenced you, that you could you can somehow like say, oh, these are the songs that would be the most essential.
For me, this album right here, and the come on, Light, look at my favorite. It's the Living End, the Hellbound album, and the instrumental track on there, the upright solo is something that's to me. I love that solo. I loved all the little. Again, this was at a time where it's like it was all magic to me. So that solo has always stuck in my head. And then, like I was saying on that Brian Setzer Ignition, the Malaguena, I think I'm saying that right. The Malaguena bass solo, that right there, that's up there and essential for me. And also the song "It's Martini Time." That was forever shrouded in mystery as to, man, how was Jimbo doing that in my early days. So that album alone is just full of upright bass gold.
And let's just mention that on the song "Malaguena" by Brian Setzer, the bass player was Mark Winchester on that record.
There you go. Yes.
And the instrumental that you mentioned, is that a Closing In?
Hellbound.
Hellbound.
Yeah.
Okay. Scott played Closing In when he was a guest.
Yeah.
He was guest
That's
here.
pretty cool.
Absolutely. I was very honored to have him. Great guy. All right, so we covered that. All right, so people, we're approaching the end here, and so please, if you have any urgent questions, burning questions, now is the time. If you were starting over, what is there any advice that you would give to younger self, like any kind of mistakes that just it was possible to avoid?
Yeah.
In your bass learning process.
Yes. Well, as far as like learning, I'm very happy with like at least my progression of like I always don't just settle and think like, oh, I'm good. This is good enough what I'm doing. Don't make that mistake, because I did that for a long time. And with that 1 2 1 2 1 2, and I was like, oh, it's good enough, and focus on singing and focus on other stuff. And so it's like I at this point in time, I wish I could go back to those early recordings, and I'm not going to. I don't believe in rewriting history, but and add the stuff that I know how to do now, or add the stuff that I was just not taking the time to learn or practice. But most importantly, and this is more so since I got into engineering, quit scooping out your mid-range. A lot of people scoop out the mid-range, and it's all thump and all click, and there's no bass cutting through the guitars. And so even if it doesn't sound good to you, it's going to sound good out front. And I wish I could go back and do that and tell myself like, hey, it needs to sound that kind of weird hollowness, but within reason. You have to work with it, but yeah, the mid-range is your friend.
So do you ever consider remastering those recordings?
Well, so I do for just nerdy streaming purposes, I will be eventually remastering the early stuff because we have all the rights to it now. So I don't even want to get into all that, but we have all the rights to now distribute our early material. So we're going to put it on vinyl, the first couple records, because they haven't been on vinyl yet. And also it's going to be remastered for proper streaming now that streaming has developed a negative 14 LUFS rule to have optimal sound. It's all that nerdy stuff's going to happen to them. But the mix itself, no. That was where we were at that point in time in our career, and I will not go in and fix any mixes or anything like that.
And you mentioned you played with a few other people besides your own bands. What were the other band leaders think about Slap? Were they encouraging you to slap, or were they saying like, "Hey, let's stop doing that clicky stuff"?
No. So there was a short period of time that I played in like kind of a Detroit rock and roll band. It was called Sala Saloon. And I did double duty. I played electric bass, and then a couple songs that called for it, I played upright. And the main reason for playing upright in those tracks was the slap was definitely there to help add a percussive element to the acoustic of the song. But the other band leader it was a rockabilly cover band, so he was like, slap your ass off. When I was playing with Gino, we were doing the jazz stuff. I knew, he knew my playing, and he was an old rockabilly guy. Played in a Detroit rockabilly band in the '90s called the Cats. So I mean, he's no stranger to slap bass. But I had to be mature enough to know, tone it back. We're not doing all over this song because there's other musicians here. There was at times a clarinet player and horn players and stuff like that. So you just gotta learn how to use it within reason for what the song calls for.
And which means what gig is asking for. What would be your advice, like how to get a gig? What like for people that they're good players, but they're looking to play with other people. What is do you have any secrets about that?
Well, I mean, we're very fortunate these days. It's easier. It's easier than ever because every city, every town now has like some sort of musician forum on your social media, so you can easily go in there and say, hey, I happen to play an upright bass. Would anybody be interested in looking or playing, with me? But so fortunately now Psychobilly is something that's a little bit more understood and a lot more people get it and are aware of it. Back when I wanted to start a Psychobilly band, it was hard to find people. Like I had to like go on America Online and search people's interests and like say, oh, cool, they like the Tiger Army, they like Necromantics, and to find people that were, I utilized that for booking. That's how I used to book the early tours, was go into the city and be like, hey, do you know other bands like this in your city, or are you in a band, and is there any clubs we can play? That's how I would find shows. But as far as actually that's how I first started playing my very, very first band. It was called Dave Dillinger and the Burdens, I believe. And that's how I found to get into that band. Was I met somebody with similar interest on AOL, and I said, hey, I have an upright bass, and he's like, hey, I'm into country, let's start jamming together. Like I said, it went from the music shop, rip the paper off, I'm this, I'm offering my services, to now we have the internet that should hopefully make it easier.
Yeah, those music stores and services like that doesn't happen anymore, right?
No, so I would see them from time to time when you go, like when you're on tour and you got to get replace a cable, and you go to the Guitar Center and you got to go to the bathroom because you've been on the road for 4 hours. When you walk out the bathroom, they're always right there.
It seems that it's much easier than it used to be, but at the same time, kind of like much harder to find people really dedicated and understanding.
funny side note for like when Tommy and I started like working together, Tommy was aware of, because he's a punk rock fan like I am, and we're Hellcat Records fans and stuff. So he was aware of the track, the Tiger Army track and the Who Killed the Cheerleader that was on those compilations, but that's as far as his knowledge went. And I was like, oh, I have stuff to show you. So I dumped, you know, Demented Argo, and I just gave him the crash course, and he fell right into it, you know. And to this day, I always make the joke with him. I'm like, one of my favorite CDs, which is missing out of that box, and I forgot to mention, was Necromantic's "Demons Are a Girl's Best Friend," and that was really, really hard to get, and I paid a lot of money for it to get it imported, and he lost it. So I still to this day like give him shit about, hey, remember when you lost that one Necromantic CD where I was like, it was really hard to get? Yeah. I think he lost it underneath the seat in his car, and then he sold his car. And
well, he should get you a vinyl at least now.
Yeah, right.
All right, I have one more question. After all these years, you've been playing for 20 years or so, and you've been on the road for very long, almost that amount of time. What does it inspire you to still do what you do?
Well, for example, there's people that have our lyrics tattooed on them. There's people that have our band logo tattooed on them. I mean, we're forever a part of their lives as they're a part of our lives. And there's people that pay money to come and see us, and that means the world to us. Like, we never have taken that for granted. And it's something where the mentality of this band has always been go, 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 go. For us, but for the people, that's just how we think. And so it's why we always continue. We always want to try to put out as much music as we can, when schedule would allow it, and just keep pushing forward. There's never been any point in time where Coffin Cats took a break since we started. And there, as far as I'm concerned, there won't be. We're just going to keep on going until we can't anymore. And we're very fortunate. We've made, ever since the very first tour, when we go out on tour, we have friends that we've made on those first tours that we still see. They still come out to the shows. And and promoters, we've gotten very close with a lot of people out on the road. And when we tour these days, it's like it's like big family reunions.
There were quite a few people talking about Coffin Cats tattoos. Nikolai said, have the Coffin Cat proudly tattooed on my arm. They're like, I'm trying to find it here. It's like lots of comments. I really appreciate all these comments, people.
Yeah, thank you guys. And really, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. It's so awesome.
Like, there's, it's Corey said, I haven't watched anything for 4 hours and stayed awake in a long time.
Yeah.
This is fun. It is fun, it's fun for me, as I said. I love doing this. Is there anything really quick that you can play for the very end?
I will. I don't know if it was requested or not, but given the amount of talking that I've done and lack of water that I've been drinking, I'm going to see if I can pull this one off vocally. But it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite ones to play on an upright, and a bass line that I'm kind of proud of, even though it's incredibly simple. But it's called Darker Place. Voices call from within the trees as corpses sway in the wind. Sacrifices to the earth. What is not pure, but it's good on no. Spread my ashes across the ground if I were to die today. This proper hell we've settled in is a place I've seen in dreams. Whoa, never go. Whoa, where I go. Whoa, no, stay away. Things I can't explain, yeah. Whoa, in a darker place. I live in ruin. Whoa, in in a darker place. I brought them through. Angels crying in a cage for mercy on everyone. Let them watch my demons work. I travel far too deep. Whoa, never go. Whoa, where I go. Whoa, stay away. Things I can't explain. Oh, in a darker place. A living ruin. Whoa, in a darker place. Run on down. I'll skip the solo or guitars. Whoa, never go. Whoa, where I go. Whoa, stay away. Things I can't explain. Whoa, in a darker place. A living ruin. Whoa, in a darker place. Run there, go. The door's open, go. The door's open, no. The door's open, no, no. Brought them through. All right, there we go. That is hard to do when you don't have a drummer. I was totally lost.
It sounded great. All right, people. Now we are all missing live shows. Make sure to clap. Make sure to clap. Let's see those hands.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you've been doing this. It's officially the longest slap stream, almost 4 hours. Kim is not happy, but we had to do this. So, thanks a lot, and I wish you all the best, and I wish you to see you play. Even in that pizza place or wherever.
Man, it had an Italian name. I can't remember. And people right now on the West Coast are like, it's that. I can't remember what it is, but great venue.
Actually, a few people texted me the Piazzos in Long Beach.
Yes, great club.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, thank you, Djordje. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and I appreciate what you're doing. And it's really cool because there's a series when I do get questions about bass, I can now forward people over to check this series out, and and it's going to be helpful for future generations of bass players to come.
Thanks a lot, and as I said, wish you all the best. Thanks a lot for these kind words. Means a word to me, and I'll keep doing this as long as I can.
Awesome. And
all right, man.
Thank you.
All right. That was Victor from the Coffin Cats. Thanks a lot for all of you for joining us. We're approaching 4th hour. We're done. Almost done. And thanks for all these comments, and thanks for all these super chats and super stickers. And I believe that you all enjoyed. I hope it was not too long for you. I've been doing this slap stream for a few months now, and then I don't plan to stop. And I do depend on your support a little bit, so please consider donating with the links below. There's a PayPal and Venmo links, and please check out Patreon. I would like to give a shout out to Patreons. There's Scott Owen from The Living Gang, Kurt Riback, Dave Tugboat, Bob Cullen, Richard Trails, and Major Peach. So far, please check out the Patreon. I offer some pretty cool perks over there, so you can do that. And don't forget to check out Coffin Cats merch store and the discount code Art of Slap Bass. Believe that's all I wanted to mention. If you're not on the Slapstream email list, please email us your email at contact@artofslapbass.com. We're not gonna spam you. We're just gonna send you the coolest info about upright bass that you can find, that we can find. And don't forget, never fret, slide it in smooth and keep it in the groove. This is Djordje, and I will see you next Saturday.